Chapter 1205. I've never taken off my clothes myself. Mommy always helped Chinpin take off her clothes. Chinpin looked at Gohan with teary eyes. Your mommy really spoils you rotten. Gohan sighed. He didn't realize that in reality, it was mostly when Maiden or Gohan who helped Chinpin take off her clothes when she took a bath. Chinpin's pampering was mostly due to Gohan's pampering. You actually let me help you take off your clothes. Didn't you say that I'm a bad person? Gohan sighed and asked curiously. You shouldn't be a bad person. Chinpin tilted her head and said. Why? Gohan continued to be puzzled. I don't know. Chinpin shook her head very seriously. Forget it. Gohan didn't know what to say. He directly started to help Chinpin take off her clothes. To be honest, Gohan was still very good at taking off clothes. After all, he didn't know how many times he had helped Chinpin take off her clothes in reality. Alright, you can take a bath by yourself. Gohan threw the naked Chinpopper into the bathtub and was about to turn around and leave. But before he took a few steps, he felt that something was wrong. Why did Chinpopper not move after he threw her into the bathtub? This was completely different from her usual lively personality, which was filled with the urge to fight in the bathtub. Gohan quickly turned around and looked down into the bathtub. He found that this little fellow had actually sunk into the bathtub. Bubbles kept coming out of her nostrils. She seemed to have fainted. Chinpin. Gohan was shocked when he saw it. He directly jumped into the bathtub and carried Chinpin out. His left hand pressed hard on her snow-white, tender, and cute belly. Chinpin's mouth was like a fountain that spurted out a large stream of water, shooting at Gohan's face. Chinpin spat out a few bubbles. Her eyes opened slightly. It seemed that she was fine. Fortunately, Gohan reacted in time. Otherwise, it was estimated that Chinpin would have drowned in the bathtub. So sleepy. Sleep. Chinpin continued to make soft sounds in a hazy manner, but it made Gohan half choke. This little fellow was sleepy just now. Why did she ask to take a bath? She could just lie on the bed and sleep. Forget it. I will carry you to sleep. Gohan carried Chinpin and prepared to leave the bathtub to put her back on the bed. No. I still want to take a bath. It's so sticky. It's so uncomfortable. As a result, when Gohan just got up, Chinpin began to make noise in her half-asleep state. She insisted on taking a bath, but Chinpin herself was in a daze. How could she take a bath in this state? In desperation, Gohan could only help her to the end. He took a towel from the wall and began to help Chinpin wash her body. Fortunately, because Chinpin was asleep, her body didn't move much. She was like a little suckling pig that had its fur removed. She didn't move an inch and let Gohan wash her body. Gohan didn't avoid anything. From her hair to her face, from her arms to her thighs, from her palms to her soles, from the two undeveloped little red beans to the snow-white, hairless little mantu, he washed her from head to toe. It took about half an hour. Gohan had never given a woman such a serious bath in his life. Hug! After washing Chinpin with great difficulty, the little loli seemed to have woken up from her half-asleep state and muttered softly. Faced with the request of his most precious sword Maiden, Gohan of course had no reason to refuse. He naturally pulled Chinpin into his arms. At the same time, feeling the warmth of Gohan's embrace, Chinpin very naturally muttered, Gohan, I really like you. Can I marry you and be your wife? After all, the little loli was a little loli. Her thoughts were very simple. If someone treated her a little better, she would marry him and be his wife. How could she forget that her parents were beaten unconscious by Gohan and were lying on the ground? This was clearly a pervert who broke into her home. Little fellow, you are my sword maiden. Of course, we will be together forever, Gohan said as he knocked Chinpin's little head. What Gohan didn't expect was that after he finished speaking, Chinpin's body in his arms instantly turned into a ray of light. In the blink of an eye, it turned into the Chinpin sword that Gohan was very familiar with. It actually returned to the sword. Holding the familiar Qingpin sword in his hand, Guhan couldn't understand. From the beginning to the end, he didn't give the command to Qingpin to return to the sword. It was reasonable to say that Qingpin herself had forgotten the fact that she was a sword maiden. So, how could Qingpin suddenly turn back into the Qingpin sword? Guhan, where is Qingpin? Why did Qingpin become like this? Qingpin's mind is in a mess. At this time, in Guhan's mind, Qingpin's voice suddenly sounded. At the same time, in the zifu of his body, a dim sword scar instantly became bright. It was like an extinguished star had been reignited. And this dim sword scar was naturally Qingpin's sword scar. But in Guhan's zifu, the sword scars of other sword maidens were still dark. It was like ashes had been burnt. Qingpin, have all your memories come back? Have all the memories from the first time we synchronized? Guhan asked nervously. What memories have come back? You make it seem like I have forgotten. How could Qingpin forget Guhan? This is impossible. Qingpin muttered. You little thing. Guhan's heart finally calmed down. He felt very comfortable and scolded. It seemed that Qingpin's memories had been completely restored. Qingpin had once again turned back into his own sword maiden, Qingpin's sword. Qingpin, carefully check your own body. See if there is anything abnormal. Guhan quickly said to Qingpin. He needed the information of Qingpin's body to evaluate this illusion. Soon, Qingpin told Guhan that her body was normal. But there were a lot of hazy and unclear memories in her mind. She only remembered that she seemed to have a pair of parents in this world. But she couldn't remember anything from when she was a baby to now. And when Guhan asked Qingpin some specific things about this world, such as what her favorite TV program was, Qingpin couldn't answer at all. It seems that this is indeed an illusion. Guhan confirmed again. This time, he made a judgment based on Qingpin's memory. If this world was the real world, then Qingpin's memory shouldn't be so vague. Even if a child's memory was very bad and many things couldn't be clearly remembered when they were young, it was impossible for them to forget things like cartoons that they usually liked to watch. There was only one explanation for this situation, and that was that this world was fake. There were no memories of the past that Qingpin lived in. At most, it could only subconsciously deceive Qingpin that this world was real. Guhan, what are we going to do next? Qingpin asked Guhan curiously. We need to find a way to find the celestial extinguished sword. Then, let the celestial extinguished sword recover its consciousness and memory as a sword maiden like you did just now. When that time comes, we should be able to leave this illusion. Guhan explained his goal in a simple manner. Then, how do we find the celestial extinguished sword? Qingpin asked again. I don't know about that. Guhan spread his hands helplessly. I can still find you and Gu Yun based on your appearance, but I've never seen what the celestial extinguished sword looks like. I don't have any information or photos related to the celestial extinguished sword. Even if she stood in front of me right now, I wouldn't be able to recognize her. Then what should we do? That means that we're going to be trapped in this illusion forever. But maybe this way. Hearing Guhan's words, Qingpin first turned pale with fright. However, her tone gradually changed towards the end. There was no longer the worry at the beginning. Instead, there seemed to be some happiness in it. What's wrong with you? Guhan noticed the change in Qingpin's tone and asked curiously. Qingpin just feels that staying in this world isn't bad. This world is much more interesting than the previous one, Qingpin said cheerfully. Unfortunately, this is just an illusion. Since it's an illusion, it will dissipate sooner or later. Guhan mercilessly shattered Qingpin's fantasy. He knocked on the blade of Qingpin's sword and asked, Qingpin, are you going to change back to your human form or stay in the scabbard? Human form. Qingpin won't stay in the scabbard. This month, Qingpin has been staying in the scabbard every day. I'm going crazy, Qingpin immediately said. Then, in the blink of an eye, she changed back to Qingpin's appearance. In the previous month, because Gohan had turned into Gu Xianyuan, the one and only Qinpin's sword that could directly prove Gohan's identity could obviously appear in the outside world. Gohan had directly hidden it in the scabbard for a month. This little fellow who liked to jump around almost fainted from suffocation. "Why are you running? Put on some clothes for me first." Gohan grabbed Qingpin's naked butt and took out a set of children's underwear and crocodile clothes from the dimensional pocket for Qingpin to wear. This cute little thing that Gohan was most familiar with had officially returned to Gohan's side. "By the way, what about Mom and Dad?" Gohan, who had also changed into a new set of clothes, carried Qingpin, the little crocodile, out of the bathroom. In the end, Qingpin found that her cheap parents were still lying on the ground unconscious. She asked Gohan with some distress, "Forget it, don't care about them. They are just an illusion. When we leave this illusion, everything here probably doesn't exist anymore." Gohan said faintly. Then, she directly carried Qingpin and left her temporary home. In fact, according to Gohan's original idea, killing this couple was the simplest way. However, thinking that Qingpin still called them Mom and Dad, it was estimated that her subconscious had not fully recovered. Killing them might leave a bad memory for Qingpin. So, after hesitating for a while, Gohan decided to let them live. When Gohan left with Qingpin a few hours later, the sun rose to a place in the sky. Only then did the couple wake up from their coma. When they saw their missing daughter and the bathroom with obvious signs of use, the couple first hugged each other and cried bitterly for a while. Then, they immediately called the police for help. As a result, in the afternoon of the same day, a piece of news: a perverted man with monstrous lust broke into the house and stole their young daughter. The parents were so sad that they wanted to cry but had no tears. It began to spread on WeChat Moments and Weibo. It was just that the parents did not have a photo of Gohan. They could only post a photo of their daughter. "Qingpin, do you have money on you?" When Gohan left with Qingpin, it was around 6 in the morning. At this time, there were still very few people on the street. However, all kinds of breakfast stalls had already been set up. Qingpin immediately began to shout, clamoring to eat street breakfast. In fact, Gohan had prepared a lot of food in his dimensional pocket. However, those were all food from the real world. Because of the shortage of ingredients, the food in the real world was actually very monotonous. There was a world of difference between the standard of cooking and that before the apocalypse. For example, before the apocalypse, buns and youtiao could be seen everywhere, but in reality they were a kind of legend that had never been heard of. If he had not entered this dreamland, Gohan would not have known that there were such things as buns and youtiao in this world. After smelling the fragrance of the street breakfast stalls, Qingpin was not even interested in Gohan's braised pork. He insisted on eating buns and youtiao by the street. Qingpin was very noisy. Gohan had no choice but to find a breakfast stall and sit down. He ordered a lot of buns and youtiao for Qingpin. He smiled bitterly as he watched the foodie Qingpin wolfing down the food in front of him. "Young man, control your sister. You shouldn't eat like this. It's not good for a child's stomach." In the blink of an eye, Qingpin had already drunk 2 bowls of soy milk, eaten 20 youtiao, and 10 meat buns. The owner of the breakfast stall was shocked. He took the initiative to run over to persuade Gohan. "It's okay. Children are still growing. It doesn't matter if they eat a little more." Gohan answered vaguely. He could not tell the owner that Qingpin was not a real human, but a sword mistress waiting for a human's skin. "Excuse me, it's a total of 180 yuan. When Qingpin finally put down the bowl in his hand in satisfaction, the owner fearfully looked at Qingpin's little belly in the crocodile suit. After making sure that the belly was not bulging as if it was pregnant, he ran over to settle the bill with Gohan. "Okay. Keep the change." Gohan directly threw 2 100 yuan bills into the owner's hand. "Thank you. Thank you." The owner first thanked him profusely. However, when he looked down, his face became as black as charcoal. He grabbed the sleeve of Gohan, who was about to leave, and said angrily, "Young man, you can't be like this. Even if you want to be a scammer, you should at least give me a decent fake bill. I want to take out your sister's toy bill to play tricks on people." Looking at the owner's hand with the 100 yuan bills of the 6 most outstanding emperor sword wielders in human history, including Kanzu, Zhetian Jiendi, Gohan realized that he might have overlooked an extremely important issue. Of course, the bills of this era could not be exactly the same as the bills of 1,000 years later. At the very least, humans in this era would not print Kanzu's head on the bills. This was because Kanzu was still an underage child. "I'm sorry, I took the wrong note when I went out. My sister is not sensible and used her own toy bill to replace my bill. That's why I made the mistake. Let me go first, I'll go home and get the money for you." Gohan had an idea and said calmly to the owner. Perhaps because Gohan's expression was too calm and normal, and it was very unreasonable to use such an obvious fake bill, the owner naturally believed Gohan's words. However, the owner said, "Why is it so troublesome to go home? Don't you have WeChat on your phone? Can't you just use WeChat transfer?" "What's WeChat? What's WeChat transfer?" Gohan thought about these two new terms in distress, but he did not show any confusion on his face. He just said calmly, "I left my WeChat at home. I didn't bring it with me." Although he felt that the grammar of the sentence, "WeChat was left at home," was a little confusing, the boss naturally thought that Gohan had left his phone at home. He said helplessly, "These days it's common to see people going out without their keys, but this is the first time I've seen someone going out without their phone. Okay, you go home and get the money, but your sister has to stay here with me for the time being. Don't worry, I've opened a breakfast stall here for more than 10 years. Everyone here knows me, I'm not a bad person." "Okay." Gohan nodded. In desperation, he was ready to go directly to Qingpin's house to see if he could find some money at home. Suddenly, a voice rang in the ears of Gohan and the owner. "There's no need to go through so much trouble. I'll pay for this little sister's meal." This voice was so familiar that when Gohan turned around, he saw a girl smiling like a lily appear beside him. "Starting point," Gohan said softly. Chapter 1206. You know me? Have we met before? Chidian paid for Gohan's breakfast with WeChat and asked Gohan curiously. "We were neighbors when we were young. Don't you remember me?" Gohan made up a story, but it was not a casual story. It was deliberate, because in this way Gohan could continue to chat with Chidian as a neighbor. "No way? I lived in the forest since I was young. I know everyone there. I never remember having a neighbor like you," Chidian said strangely. "Forest?" Gohan looked up and found a pure black super luxury car parked on the street behind Chidian. Thinking about how Chidian paid for his meal without blinking, Gohan quickly judged that Chidian should be a rich kid, and the forest was probably the name of a high-end residential area. "When we were very young, about 2 or 3 years old, my family was in decline, and the house in the forest was sold. It's normal that you don't remember me." Gohan sighed and said with infinite sadness, "I'm sorry." Chidian smiled awkwardly and waved to Gohan. "It's getting late. I have to go to school. Let's talk when we meet again." After that, Chidian trotted to his luxury car. The car turned a corner and disappeared from Gohan's sight. "Young man, you're lucky. You actually met the Missy of the Shunfeng group today. She paid for your breakfast. Hurry up and take your sister home. Remember to bring your phone next time. Don't be so muddle-headed." The boss began to educate Gohan. "Boss, do you know this Missy?" Gohan asked curiously. "Of course. The Missy of the Shunfeng group is very famous in this area. She also goes to Shanghai University. Basically, everyone in this area knows her. I heard that when I was a child, I went to a master to read my fortune. He said that when I was 18 years old, I would face a bloody disaster. I need to do 3 good deeds every day and persist for more than 15 years to resolve this bloody disaster. That's why this young lady appears around us every day and helps others just like she helped you. There's almost no one in this area who doesn't know her," the boss said and suddenly frowned. "Strange, since you know Miss Chi-Dien and are her neighbor, why would you ask me about this?" The boss didn't get an answer to his question because when he looked up, Gohan and Qin-Pin had disappeared without a trace. "Gohan, where are we going? Are we going to the University of Monster Science and Technology to wake up Big Sister?" Qin-Pin asked Gohan curiously on a commercial street. "Don't worry. Didn't you realize that it's hard to move an inch in this world without money?" Gohan knocked on Qin-Pin's head. "Let's find a way to find money first." "Oh, but where are we going to find money? I seem to remember that there's something called a lottery in this world that can earn millions of yuan overnight," Qin-Pin said as she tried hard to recall her memory of this world. "There's no such thing as a lottery in this world that can win a prize." Gohan curled his lips and said, "Then let's work to earn money? Foxconn is hiring, we can earn 3,500 yuan a month," Qin-Pin said as she pointed to a small Foxconn recruitment advertisement on a nearby electric pole. "There's only 7 days left before the apocalypse. By then, we won't even get our first week's salary." Gohan knocked on Qin-Pin's head hard. "Then we'll be like that grandpa, lying on the ground and earning money without looking at anything." Qin-Pin saw an old man with tattered clothes kneeling on the ground and begging not far away. At that moment, a young man took out 10 yuan from his wallet and threw it into the old man's hand. He immediately said, as if he had found a treasure, "It's fast and easy to earn money this way." "Little fool, why do you always think of normal ways to earn money?" Gohan smiled helplessly and said, "Why can't you think of some abnormal ways to earn money?" Just as they were talking, Gohan pointed to 2 men at the bus stop in front. One of them was using his body to block the view of others, while the other man was sneakily putting his hand into the bag of a fashionable lady who was squeezing into the bus. "How fast can we earn money that way?" Gohan said with a smile. "Wow! This woman is quite rich, at least a few thousand yuan." In an alley, 2 thieves were happily counting the day's harvest after they had succeeded. Looks like Qin-Pin's harvest today is not bad. We can earn a few thousand yuan to feed Gohan." Another cheerful voice sounded in the ears of the 2 thieves. The 2 thieves immediately raised their heads in alarm and saw a little loli wearing a crocodile costume appearing in front of them. "Phew!" The 2 thieves let out a sigh of relief at first. They thought that an undercover police officer had appeared. When they realized that their target was a cute little loli, an evil thought naturally emerged in their minds. "Little girl, Uncle will take you to eat lollipops, okay?" One of the thieves said with a fake smile. "Yes. It's a milk-filled lollipop that can spit out milk." The other thief's face was no longer a fake smile, but a lecherous smile. "What's a milk-filled lollipop? Is it really delicious? Is it as delicious as Gohan's braised pork?" Qin-Pin tilted her head and asked. "Of course it's 10,000 times better than braised pork." The 2 thieves laughed even more happily. "Our lollipops are natural, pollution-free, fresh, and unprocessed organic food." "Forget it," Gohan said, "that we can't eat lollipops from strangers. You guys should just give the money to Qin-Pin and let Qin-Pin buy braised pork." Qin-Pin said with her eyes wide open. "Little girl, it's not up to you." The 2 thieves could no longer resist the temptation of the little loli. They wanted to hug Qin-Pin in their arms. However, they only saw a flash of silver light in front of their eyes, followed by blood-red water droplets splashing on their pupils. Finally, they felt their palms become lighter. When they looked down, they saw that their right hand only had 4 fingers left. Blood-red blood gushed out like a fountain from where their index fingers used to be. The scene looked extremely beautiful. Meanwhile, the little girl was holding a long sword that was as tall as her. She looked at her palm that was like a fountain with a smile on her face. The scene looked extremely terrifying. Ah! Help! Help! At this moment, the two thieves were not arrogant at all. They scrambled to escape the alley. Don't you want your fingers? The two thieves didn't run for a few steps before they were stopped by a man. This time, the man pointed to the two severed fingers on the ground and said, I heard that although the medicine of this era can't regenerate severed fingers, the ability to reconnect severed fingers is still there. If you take your fingers to the hospital, maybe you can reconnect them. The two thieves looked at each other, bent down, and rushed to the severed fingers on the ground. As a result, when they were less than a meter away from the target, they were kicked heavily in the chest and flew a few meters away. Well, I don't want to talk nonsense with you two. Hand over all your money, Gohan said coldly. By the way, use your good hand to take the money. I don't want to use a blood-stained note. Yes, yes. The two thieves knew that they had met a martial arts master, so they didn't dare to say anything else. They handed over all their gains today to Gohan in fear and trepidation. Gohan took a look and found that the money added up was estimated to be less than 7,000 yuan. That's too little, Gohan said indifferently. Are these two fingers of yours only worth 7,000 yuan? To tell you the truth, 7,000 yuan can only buy 2 fingernails at most. Give me 1 million yuan and you can take these 2 fingers back. Sir. Sir. Please let us go. We are just 2 small shrimps. Even if we sell them, we won't be able to get 1 million yuan. Hearing Gohan say so, the two thieves suddenly knelt down, while covering their bleeding fingers and begging in pain. Oh, then let's change the way. Gohan smiled. You two tell me, is there a bad guy with a net worth of more than 10 million yuan nearby who is exactly the same as you? You want to cheat us? The two thieves exclaimed. Boss, I've tricked 2 more fools. They really think that I'm a Hong Kong lady who can't give birth to a child. A bald man with a fierce face said to a man with a dignified face and murderous aura next to him. Very good. Let Teacher Wang give them a lesson and squeeze all the money out of them. The boss said viciously. This was a MLM organization lurking in the residential area. They relied on relatives to deceive relatives and fools to deceive fools. They had already locked up hundreds of people in these residential areas, and their net worth had reached more than 10 million yuan. Boss, I also got something. I caught a guy who was poking his head around nearby. At this time, another fierce short-haired man came in. A guy who was poking his head around? Could it be a cop? The boss said vigilantly. It shouldn't be. This guy is very young. He looks about 18 years old. How can there be such a young cop? The short-haired man said as he pushed a young man in. Seeing that this person was indeed very young, the boss immediately felt relieved. Nowadays, all the cops had to graduate from the police academy. Most of the people who came out to investigate were already in their 20s. Indeed, there were no such young cops anymore. Young man, do you know about Amway? Seeing this young man, the boss suddenly became interested. Ever since the organization expanded, he had been hiding behind the scenes and beating people up. He had never attended a frontline class. However, seeing this young man, the boss inexplicably had a little interest and decided to personally Amway this young man. I don't know. The young man shook his head sincerely. What he said was the truth. There was no Amway after 1,000 years. Then let me tell you, Amway is the world's best nutrition product, the best cosmetics, and the best merchandise. As long as you eat one Amway, a long life won't be a dream. As long as you sell a box of Amway, you'll be able to achieve meteoric success. It'll be easy for you to reach the peak of your life. The boss was so enthusiastic that the scar on his forehead started to contort. Look at me. Look at this gold chain of mine. The boss grabbed the gold chain hanging on his neck. Good Lord, this gold chain was at least as thick as a finger. The price of this chain was estimated to have exceeded 100,000 yuan. This is what I earned from selling 10 boxes of Amway. As long as you also sell 10 boxes of Amway, you can wear a gold chain as thick as mine." The boss directly hooked his arm around Gohan's shoulder and tempted Gohan. "How much is this Amway?" Gohan asked curiously. "It's simple." Seeing that Gohan took the bait so easily, the boss sighed and continued to introduce enthusiastically. "First, spend 18888 to buy a box of Amway from me. Then, you can become our second-level agent. In the future, if anyone buys Amway directly from you, you can take a 30% commission. As for those who have bought Amway from you, they will become your second-level agent. My third-level agents can also help you sell Amway. You can also take 10% of the Amway they sell as your agency fee. In this way, for every additional level of agent, you can earn a layer of agency fee. If this goes on, you will soon reach the pinnacle of your life and wear this golden chain like me." One is never too old to learn. The ancients actually invented such a way to make money. It's really amazing. Gohan sighed in his heart. In reality, MLM had been completely eradicated. No one, including Gohan, knew what MLM was. If it wasn't for this illusion, Gohan would never have thought of such a way to make money. "How about it? Join us and do it together." After the boss finished talking a lot of nonsense, he patted his cold chest and said loudly, "But this is still too slow." Gohan frowned and said with some regret, "This is already very fast. It's much better than your dead salary. If you want to be fast, hurry up and call your relatives and friends. As long as they pay for Amway, boss, I will immediately give you the commission." The boss looked at this young man in surprise. He suddenly realized that this young man might be greedier than he thought. "No, this is still too slow. I have a faster way." Gohan squinted and said, "What way?" The boss asked instinctively. "For example." As soon as Gohan's voice fell, the boss felt a pain in his neck. When he reacted, the gold necklace hanging on his neck was already on Gohan's neck. And the other party looked at him with a smile. "You see, this is much faster." "Damn it. You're trying to cheat me on me. Go and let this stinking brat know the rules." The boss then realized that he was played by Gohan. He said to the other thugs in the room. Those thugs immediately surrounded him. There were more than a dozen of these thugs. Each of them looked fierce and had scary tattoos on their bodies. If an ordinary person saw them, they would definitely be scared to the point of peeing their pants. "Sigh, there's no sense of accomplishment in bullying you guys. It's more comfortable to beat up Yuan Ko." Gohan put his hand into his clothes. Then, under the boss's gaze, he took out a long sword that was about 1 meter long. This made the boss couldn't help but look at Lulu's eyes to see if there was something wrong with his eyes. "Be careful when you make your move. I'm going to kill this brat. I'm going to teach him how to be a man," the boss said while rubbing his eyes. But when he finished rubbing his eyes, he found that the whole world had become different. His thugs, who were fierce just now, had all fallen to the ground and were wailing in pain. If you looked carefully, you could see that there was a long and deep blood mark on the tendon behind their ankles. This blood mark was cut so perfectly that not a single drop of blood flowed out. "Well, hand over all your money." Gohan looked at the boss with a smile and said, I like the way to make money quickly." Chapter 1207. You shouldn't have messed with me. The boss reached under the table behind him and pulled out a pitch-black pistol. The black muzzle was pointed at Gohan's head. "Kneel down now and cut off your right hand. Otherwise, don't blame me for being merciless." The boss looked nervously at the long sword in Gohan's hand. He spat on the ground and cursed. "Damn it, do you think you're still in the era of martial arts? There are no martial arts masters now. Those with guns are the masters. Hurry up and cut off your right hand." "Gun." Gohan glanced at the pistol and said disdainfully, "Can it be faster than my sword? Madman! Madman! Go to hell." The boss no longer cared about anything else. He directly pulled the trigger in his hand, and a crisp gunshot rang out. The boss closed his eyes nervously. He was afraid to see the scene where Gohan's brain burst. Although he got himself a gun, to be honest, he had never killed anyone with a gun, so he was still quite afraid. He should be dead. After the gunshot sounded for more than 10 seconds, the boss opened his eyes hesitantly. However, he did not see Gohan's body with his brain burst out as he had imagined. Instead, he saw Gohan's cold face and a bullet in his hand. Damn! I missed it at such a close distance? The boss did not expect that the bullet in Gohan's hand was caught by Gohan just now. He took it for granted that his shot just now had missed, and the bullet in Gohan's hand should be the bullet he carried. Damn it, I won't miss this time, the boss muttered. Then, he did not dare to close his eyes like before. Instead, he opened his eyes wide and shot 3 consecutive shots at Gohan in front of him. Enough, my patience has its limits, Gohan snorted coldly. He grabbed something in the air and sent it towards Boss. The 3 bullets that were still emitting smoke were sent to Boss's face. F***ck, shooting a movie. The boss yelled crazily. You must be shooting a movie. Where is the director? Where are the props? Hurry up and come out, I'm going to kill you. Sigh, what a waste of time. Gohan leaned forward and twisted his wrist slightly. Before the boss could react, the pistol in his hand fell into Gohan's hand. The black muzzle was directly pressed against his head. Do you want to live or die? Gohan asked coldly. I want to live. He wanted to live. I don't want to die, the boss quickly said. At this time, he had regained his rationality. Very good. Gohan nodded with satisfaction. Someone told me that you have 10 million. I'll give you 10 minutes. You'd better ask your men to bring me 10 million in cash now. Otherwise, I'll kill you on the spot. Yes, yes. The boss nodded repeatedly. He was not surprised by Gohan's behavior of asking for cash. After all, it was very easy to track the flow of the cash if he used the transfer method. It was more reliable and safer to use cash. Under the threat of death, the boss immediately called his wife. 9 minutes later, his wife and a few women came crying with several bags of cash. I'd like to see how this guy can take away so much cash. The boss felt the pain of losing 10 million in cash, and looked at Gohan with the attitude of watching a joke. This guy actually did not bring his companions and ran here alone. It should be known that it was not easy to take the cash in these bags. It would definitely restrict the opponent's movement. Maybe he could take the opportunity to launch a sneak attack when the opponent took the money. Come on. I'll show you a magic trick. Gohan seemed to have seen through the boss's thoughts. The corners of his mouth curled into a slight smile. His palm lightly touched the backpacks, and they instantly disappeared without a trace. The boss and the other women were so scared that their eyes almost popped out. Is this a magic trick? The boss said to himself in a daze. But my wife is not Dong Qing. Oh yes. After putting all the money into the dimensional pocket, Gohan seemed to think of something. He turned his head and said to the boss with a smile, Just now someone recommended you to me and said that you have a net worth of 10 million. Now I'll give you a chance. You can recommend me a friend of the underworld who has a net worth of 30 million. Yes. Understood. The boss immediately jumped up and said, Wow, it turns out that someone dug a pit for me and led this killing god here. Then don't blame me for being ruthless. Since I have suffered a big loss, then others can't win. It just so happens that Wang Lauer made me angry yesterday, so I will let him taste the feeling of losing money. When Gohan, the killing god, was finally sent away, the boss finally let out a long sigh of relief. His wife came over trembling and asked with a sad face, Husband, should we call the police? Call the police, my ass. Do you want to send all of us to the police station? The boss slapped his wife in the face and scolded, Are you kidding me? How can we call the police about this? Otherwise, I won't have the face to live in this world. But this time, we didn't suffer a loss. If that killing god can really deal with Wang Lauer, we can make money from his territory. Thinking of this, the boss laughed again. In the next few hours, the underworld of Shanghai spent the most terrifying morning of their lives, which also created an earth-shattering legend of Shanghai's underworld. All the well-known underworld bosses were attacked by a young man alone in a very short period of time. No matter how powerful the thugs in their hands were, no matter how many guns they had, they were no match for the young man. Someone even brought out a rocket launcher. As a result, before the rocket launcher was fired, his head was cut off. However, except for the underworld bosses who relied on kidnapping children and forcing young girls into prostitution, who were killed by the young man without hesitation, the rest of the bosses basically kept their lives as long as they paid the money honestly. According to incomplete statistics, more than 15 bosses were attacked in this morning alone, extorting more than 1 billion yuan. It could be said to be the most legendary and darkest day in the history of Shanghai's underworld. Granny, take it. Everything is here. Under the scorching sun, a young girl whose clothes were worth millions of yuan was helping a gray-haired old woman pick up the drink bottles on the ground. Qidian was quite famous in Shanghai University. Basically, most of the students knew this unique young lady who wanted to do 3 good deeds in a day. So, many students took the initiative to hand over the drink bottles in their hands to Qidian. There was no need for Qidian to bend down to pick them up. Among them, many students simply poured away the half-finished drinks in their hands, or the drinks that had just been opened. Then, they happily handed the empty bottles in their hands to Qidian. Among them, there were some tall, handsome, well-proportioned handsome men and male gods. However, no matter how handsome the other party was, Qidian did not show any extra expression. It only thanked them. "These are all for you." Suddenly, a person handed over a whole box of mineral water. Qidian glanced at it and suddenly rolled its eyes. It raised its head and said, "Even if you have so much money that you have nowhere to spend it, please pour the water in the bottle for me." The other party responded with an "oh." Then, with a flash of silver light, the caps of the mineral water bottles flew up, and the water inside the bottles also rose. Without any external force, the water spurted out of the bottles like a fountain, defying the laws of gravity. Soon, all the mineral water in the mineral water bottle was sprayed out. The other party handed the empty mineral water bottle to Qidian and said with a smile, "Okay, you can take it now. How did you do it?" Qidian finally could not maintain its calm expression. It raised its head and asked the other party in surprise. "It's you." Qidian recognized the identity of the man in front of it at a glance. Wasn't he the person who helped it when it did 3 good deeds in a day this morning? Oh right, he also said that he was its neighbor. "Qidian, we meet again." Gohan smiled slightly. Qidian thought that Gohan meant that they met again this morning. When Gohan said that they would meet again, he was referring to the time they met after they left Shanghai Pass. Counting from that time, it had been more than a month since they last met. "Humph, you deliberately provoked me at that time. You wanted to attract my attention, didn't you?" Qidian snorted coldly. "I've seen many people like you, and now you want to attract me with magic. Go away, I'm not interested in seeing you." Qidian was telling the truth. Ever since her identity was exposed in Shanghai University, there were countless boys who tried to approach her through various means. Although the way the man in front of her used magic to attract her was a little strange, it was just some magic. There was nothing to be surprised about. "I do want to attract you." Gohan nodded and admitted readily. "Then tell me, what did I do to attract your attention? I'm quite rich now, and I can satisfy you in everything." "You're crazy." Qidian rolled its eyes at Gohan, only to find that the clothes he was wearing were indeed different from this morning. This morning, Gohan was wearing some street stall goods of unknown brand, which was actually a high-end brand from 1,000 years later. Now, he had changed into a set of decent clothes, and the price was actually not worse than what Qidian was wearing. However, this was nothing for Qi. She said coldly and arrogantly, "You never need money to attract my attention because in Shanghai, no one is richer than me." Okay. Guhan shrugged his shoulders. He didn't expect Qi to change its character template and become a domineering female CEO. But it didn't matter, Guhan, could not subdue Qi, this little hussy. "I heard that you want to do 3 good deeds in a day. How about this, let's make a deal." Guhan changed his words and said, "You do good deeds to help me, and I do good deeds to help you. What do you think?" "Go away, who wants to help you?" Qi rolled its eyes at Guhan, picked up its bag and was about to leave. However, before it could take 2 steps, a little guy suddenly rushed into Qidian's arms. Qidian's mommy. Qidian's mommy. She even rubbed her oily mouth on Qidian's face with all her might, smearing the foundation on Qidian's face. "Hey, whose child are you? Who is your mother?" Qidian was so angry that it wanted to grab the little girl hanging on its body, but it didn't expect that the little girl was so slippery. No matter how hard it tried, it couldn't catch the little girl. Instead, it let the little girl hang on its body. In the end, it sat on Qidian's neck and said proudly, "Mom Qidian, don't move or Qinpin can't help but pee." This sentence was like a nuclear bomb, and Qidian was so scared that it didn't dare to move anymore. It was afraid that the ungrateful little girl would pee on its neck. If that happened, it would be too ashamed to live in Shanghai University anymore. "Who the hell are you, you little boy? Why are you pestering me like this?" Qidian was so angry that it almost cried. "You are my mom Qidian, he is my dad Guhan, and we are your Qinpin babies," Qinpin replied in a childish voice. Unexpectedly, the next second she began to cry. She said while crying, "Mom, didn't you promise Qinpin when you were young that you would take Qinpin to the park to play when you were rich? Why don't you want Qinpin and Dad Guhan now? Qinpin is so sad, I miss my mom." "What? Miss Qidian already has a child?" "Yes. Looking at her age, I guess she was pregnant when she was in high school. I didn't expect Miss Qidian to be such a person." "Yes, I heard that Miss Qidian took a year off from high school. Is it because of this reason?" "Don't talk nonsense. I took a year off from high school because I was sick, seriously ill." Hearing the discussion of the crowd, Qidian was so angry that its face turned pale. It tried hard to explain. It was a pity that the more Qidian explained, the darker it became. The more Qidian explained, the more it looked like the truth. "Well done." Guhan touched Qingpin's head lovingly and praised. "Okay. I agree. Let's do as you say. Let's trade." Qidian shouted helplessly. She knew that without Guhan's cooperation, she would never be able to wash off this stain in her life. "Well, do me a favor first," Guhan said lightly. "What favor?" "There is a note here. Just read the words on the note." After Guhan finished speaking, he handed a note to Qidian. "So simple?" Qidian took the note with doubt. Then her face turned red instantly. She threw the note directly to Guhan's face and scolded, "You bastard, don't even think about it." "Okay." Guhan smiled indifferently. "Qinpin, does your stomach still hurt? Do you want to take a dump now?" "Oh. Qingpin's stomach hurts. Ouch. Qinpin hurts so much." Seeing Qingpin's performance without acting skills, Qidian completely collapsed. Her eyes were full of pitiful tears. She reluctantly picked up the note again and read it tremblingly. "Guhan, I like you so much. Can I marry you and be your wife?" Guhan didn't ask Qidian to read this sentence for no reason. This morning, Qinpin recovered her memory after saying this sentence to Guhan. So Guhan took it for granted that as long as Qidian said this sentence to herself, then Qidian should be able to recover her original memory. But it turned out that Guhan miscalculated. When Qidian read the sentence on the note angrily, not only did it not recall the memory of Guhan, but its eyes were full of hatred for Guhan. "Damn! It seems that I miscalculated." Guhan's heart thumped. He seemed to take it for granted. But what was the problem? Was this sentence only effective for Chinpin, or did it only work when she took a bath in the water like Chinpin? Chapter 1208. Baby! Wang Jia, the richest man in Shanghai and the boss of Shunfeng Group, was just about to talk to his precious daughter. However, the other party ignored him and went upstairs angrily. Wang Jia was confused and immediately called someone to ask about it. After learning that an ungrateful man and a child had pestered his daughter this afternoon, Wang Jia was so angry that he immediately called his friend in the Public Security Bureau and asked the Public Security Bureau to arrest the brat immediately. Putting aside Wang Jia's plan to stand up for her daughter, Qidian hugged her pillow and burst into tears the moment she returned to her room. The humiliation she received today was something she had never experienced in her entire life. Gu Han's smelly face was like a seal that was deeply engraved in her mind. She was so angry that she wanted to raise her little fist and smash the other party's face into pieces. After crying for about an hour or two, Qidian finally felt hungry. He opened his backpack to look for a few pieces of chocolate to fill his stomach. But when he opened his bag, he was surprised to find a small dagger in his bag that he didn't know when it appeared. Ridiculous! Qidian directly threw the small dagger aside, then carefully took out a bucket of instant noodles from the cupboard in the room. Then, like a thief, she went to the living room to get a pot of hot water and began to make the instant noodles happily. Humph! Usually they say that instant noodles are not good. They have preservatives, are fried, and cause cancer. They just don't let me eat it. Qidian muttered to herself while waiting for the noodles to be ready. I don't want to do what you want. If you want to blame something, blame it on my bad mood today. Today, I want to taste the taste of instant noodles. Qidian was born in a rich family and became pitiful. She had never even tasted instant noodles in her life. Sigh. Dad is too much. I don't know why he believes an old man's words so much. He said that I should do 3 good things every day, so I should do 3 good things every day. In the end, after doing good deeds and being a good person all my life, in the end, I still get bullied by bad people. What the hell am I after? Qidian continued to complain, but these words completely subverted her perfect rich goddess image. I've decided, from tomorrow on, I won't do good things, I want to do bad things, I want to be a bad woman. Qidian found a lot of things to say until the aroma of the instant noodles tempted her stomach to growl. She couldn't wait to open the lid of the instant noodles and was about to have a good meal. Suddenly, a figure scurried to her side, picked up the bowl of instant noodles in front of her, and began to eat it in big mouthfuls. It's you again. Qi took a closer look and realized that the person who snatched his instant noodles was actually the little loli who made him want to cry but had no tears this afternoon. His nose suddenly twitched, and he couldn't hold back the tears in his eyes anymore. He began to cry loudly. Mom, Qidian, don't cry. I'm not eating this noodle anymore. I'll return it to you. Seeing that Qidian was crying, Qinpin suddenly panicked. He put down the instant noodles in his hand and handed it back to Qidian. Qidian looked down. Oh my God, there was only a little bit of noodles left in it, and some white like Qingpin's saliva floating on the soup. She immediately cried even more sadly. Qingpin, didn't I tell you not to make Qidian cry like this afternoon? She's also very pitiful. Gohan's voice sounded in Qidian's ear. Qidian raised his head and saw that Gohan also appeared in his room. Oh my God, it seems that these 2 guys treat my room as their home. Qidian suddenly felt that the whole life seemed to be full of evil. Go away, if you don't leave, I'll call the police. Qidian felt that she couldn't stay silent anymore. She took out her mobile phone from her bag and dialed 110. But before she could unlock it, she felt a pebble hit the back of her hand. Her palm naturally loosened and the phone flew out. Dad! Help! Dad! Qidian turned around and wanted to rush out of the room, but Gohan stretched out his arm, and Qidian was naturally held in Gohan's arms. Gohan intimately pinched Qidian's nose and smiled. Well, we've been husband and wife for a long time. Don't be angry with me. Who's been husband and wife for a long time? We've never seen each other. Chidien was so angry that he opened his small mouth and bit Gohan's arm. Gohan didn't dodge and just let Chidien bite him. Until Chidien's teeth were sore and she used up all her strength, Gohan lovingly touched Chidien's cheek and smiled. How about it? Are you done venting your anger? Don't you know pain? Chidien suddenly found that she had no way to deal with the man in front of her. She could only reluctantly let go of her teeth and looked at Gohan pitifully. What on earth do you like about me? I'll change, okay? What nonsense are you talking about? You're my woman. I'm here to take you home. Gohan smiled. You're the fool. I'm a virgin. Don't tarnish my innocence, Chidien said bitterly. Hey, to tell you the truth, this is an illusion, and you're my wife. It's just that you've lost your memory because of the illusion. I'm here to take you home from this illusion, Gohan said frankly and honestly. Che, have you read too many online novels? You're crazy. Chidien certainly didn't believe what Gohan said. Gohan didn't care. After whispering with Chinpin for a while, he smiled and said, By the way, we made a deal this afternoon. We agreed that if you help me do something, I'll repay you with something. Since you've already read the words on the note for me, I naturally have to repay you. Forget it, I don't need it. Staying far away from me is the best reward you can give me, Chidien said with a bitter and helpless face. I am so hungry. No, I said I'll repay you, so I'll repay you. Come with me. Gohan didn't wait for Chidien to agree. He directly hugged Chidien in his arms and then jumped out of the window with Chidien. Help! Help! Although Chidien's family lived in a villa, its room was on the second floor. It was at least 4 or 5 meters high. If it fell like this, it might break a bone or something. Chidien naturally screamed in fear. But Chidien was scared for a long time. It didn't feel any pain from falling. Instead, it felt light as if it was flying in the air. Chidien quickly opened its eyes and looked. Oh my God! It was actually flying in the sky. And the one flying with it was obviously Gohan, who was holding it tightly in his arms. You can actually fly. Chidien touched Gohan's body and found that there was nothing on him except for a set of clothes. It suddenly screamed in horror. Are you a god or a monster? Do you want to eat me? You think too much. I can't bear to eat you. I'm still hoping that you can help me give birth to a child. Gohan touched Chidien's belly. Chidien's face immediately turned red. But it didn't stop Gohan from touching its belly. Maybe it was because Chidien was afraid that its movement would disturb Gohan's flight and cause the two of them to fall from the sky together. Hey, what do you want to do with me? Chidien didn't know how many times it had asked this question, but Gohan never gave it an answer. He just kept flying in the sky. It wasn't until they flew from the villa area of the forest to Shanghai that they stopped in a bustling commercial street. This is Pudong Automobile City? Chidien, who was quite familiar with Shanghai, recognized where it was at this time at a glance. Just like the name said, this was a car city that specialized in selling cars. Almost all the car brands in the world were gathered here. There were hundreds of Car 4S shops. About half of the cars in Shanghai were sold from this car city. Although it was around 9 o'clock in the evening, this car city was still busy. The lights were brightly lit, and a steady stream of people was surging in the car city. Why did you bring me here? Chidien asked in a low voice. Do you still need to ask? Of course, I came to the car city to buy a car. Gohan replied with a smile. But I didn't bring money with me. I didn't even bring my phone, Chidien said with a troubled expression. Don't worry. I'll pay for it. You don't have to spend money. Gohan laughed and took out 2 dark sunglasses from his dimensional pocket. He handed one to Chidien and said, Put it on. Why should I bring this thing? Chidien asked in confusion. Are you stupid? Gohan chuckled. We are going to do bad things. Of course, we have to cover our faces when doing bad things. Otherwise, what should we do if we are recognized? Do bad things. Hearing these words, Chidian's blood suddenly began to surge quickly unconsciously. Not only did she not feel any disgust in her heart, but she also felt endless excitement. Just like what Chidian said to herself just now, there was indeed a desire to do bad things in the depths of her heart. After putting on the sunglasses, Guhan took Chidian into a car club called Golden Palace Luxury Car Club. As soon as he entered the door, he said to the waiter in a generous manner, "You, bring me the best car in your shop. I'll buy it." Who is this? How arrogant! The salespeople in the shop turned their heads and saw a man and a woman wearing sunglasses walking in. Hey! What are these clothes? The salespeople in these luxury car 4S stores might not have any other skills, but their ability to recognize people or clothes was indeed superb. With just a glance, they could tell that the clothes worn by this man and woman were all worth more than 1 million yuan. They were a once-in-a-lifetime luxury customer. Perhaps this half a year's bonus would fall on this man and woman. All the salespeople in the 4S shop surrounded them and began to promote the new cars to Guhan and Chidian. Chidian's face was not good, which made people feel suffocated. "Get out of my way! Don't you see my woman is scared by you?" Seeing this scene, Guhan shouted domineeringly. The salespeople were startled and instantly stepped back, for fear of angering this master. Chidian blushed and shrank in Guhan's arms, secretly twisting on the soft flesh of Guhan's waist, and scolded in a low voice, "Who is your woman? Who are you saying is your woman? Ahem!" Guhan grabbed Chidian's hand and said to the salesmen with smiles on their faces, "I'm here to buy the best car today. Hurry up and bring me the best car you have, or I'll leave." Here. A beautiful saleswoman reacted the fastest. Striding forward with her long legs, she pinched her sweet voice and called out to Guhan, "Master, over here, the best car is over here." Guhan immediately walked over with Chidian. In the center of the luxury car club, there was a pitch-black Batmobile that was full of cool and arrogant word. "Boss, this is the unique treasure of our store, the Bugatti Batmobile." The beautiful saleswoman immediately introduced with a sweet smile, "This is the Batmobile made by DC Comics and Bugatti Veyron last year to celebrate the Batman movie series. There are only 99 of them in the world, and this is the only Bugatti Batmobile in Shanghai. Our boss spent a lot of effort and begged many favors to buy it. The global price is $9.99 million US. I'll give you a discount and make it $9 million US." When the beautiful saleswoman finished speaking, her whole body was almost pressed against Guhan's body. An orchid-like perfume drifted into Guhan's nose along with the breeze. Of course Chidian, who was behind Guhan, also had a nose. Humph, Chanel No. 8 perfume, a cheap product specially developed for those prostitutes in London. It smells coquettish. Seeing that the female saleswoman shamelessly pressed against him, Chidian's face suddenly changed, and he said in a strange tone, "Hee." The beautiful saleswoman's face suddenly became as ugly as a pig's liver. Didn't Chidian's words mean that she was a prostitute? "Hey! You can't say that. It's also a job requirement." Guhan laughed, then took out 5 thick stacks of $100 bills from his arms. Without looking at them, he threw them directly in front of the beautiful saleswoman and said in a heroic manner, "This is my apology on behalf of my wife. Thank you, boss." "Thank you, boss." The beautiful saleswoman weighed it a little and knew that each stack of money was about 10,000 US. In other words, Chidian had given her a tip of 50,000 US. This immediately made the beautiful saleswoman's eyebrows raised in joy, and the surrounding saleswomen's eyes turned red with jealousy. My goodness, in the blink of an eye, I earned 50,000 US in tip. If I knew this would happen, I would have sprayed some of this Chanel No. 8 perfume. The beautiful saleswoman did not care about Chidian's ugly expression, as well as the stares of her peers around her. Once again, she stuck to Guhan's side. She wanted to rub her whole body into Gohan's body, and said in a sweet voice, "Boss, do you want me to take you to test the car? I guarantee that it will be strong and flavorful. Get out of my way." Before Gohan could speak, Chidien took the lead and kicked the beautiful saleswoman's stomach, directly sending her flying out. She fell heavily on the ground with all 4 feet in the air, and even the translucent sexy panties inside her skirt were exposed. "So cool," Chidien said with a comfortable face. She never thought that kicking people would be such a cool thing. Especially when he kicked this bitch away from Gohan's side, it was simply too satisfying. "Hey, Chidien, how can you bully people?" Gohan looked at Chidien with a reproachful look, then took out 10 stacks of bills from his clothes, put them in Chidien's hand and said warmly, "Hurry up and make it up to me." "Okay." Chidien's eyes under the sunglasses were full of smiles. She picked up the 100 yuan bills that Gohan gave her and threw them all into the skirt of the beautiful saleswoman. "Thank you, madam. Thank you, madam." The beautiful saleswoman, who looked like she was about to cry a moment ago, suddenly smiled happily again. She did not care how insulting she was. She tightly clamped her legs that were wearing black stockings. While she thanked Chidien, she was afraid that the bills in her skirt would come out. She looked so sad and pitiful. "I'm so envious. I really want to be kicked." Seeing this scene, the other saleswomen did not have any anger or sympathy. Instead, they were full of deep envy. Being kicked by someone could be exchanged for 100,000 yuan, so they wished they could be kicked a few times every day. "Okay, I want to drive this car out and try it. Which one of you will sit in the car and try it with me?" At this time, Gohan had already sat in the driver's seat and co-driver's seat with Chidien, and said to the other saleswomen around him, "Let me do it. Let me do it." With the example just now, the other saleswomen went crazy at this time. Another saleswoman took the lead and rushed to the front desk to ask for the key of the Batmobile. She just handed it to Gohan and was about to get in the car to try it with him and see if she could get a big tip. Unexpectedly, Gohan pushed her chest and pushed her to the ground. At the same time, he inserted the key directly into the keyhole and twisted it. The Batmobile made a roaring engine sound and rushed out like an arrow leaving the bow. It directly hit several glass walls of the luxury car club. Before anyone realized what had happened, it had already disappeared without a trace. Chapter 1209. Hey! Are we stealing a car? Sitting in the speeding Bugatti Batmobile, Chidien asked Gohan excitedly. Of course, 150,000 yuan can't afford such a cool car. Gohan replied loudly. Then, are we doing something bad? Chidien asked again. Of course we're doing something bad. Gohan replied even louder. Then, let's do something even worse. Chidien yelled at the top of its lungs. Okay. Then, sit tight and fasten your seatbelt. Gohan smiled. After fastening Chidien's seatbelt, he stepped on the accelerator, and the Batmobile accelerated to a speed of 100 kilometers per hour in just 5 seconds. Almost flying, Gohan stepped on the accelerator, but soon, the Batmobile lost control and drifted wildly on the road, smashing dozens of trash cans, lamps, and other things on the roadside. Chidien was so scared that it screamed. It was not until 10 seconds later that the Batmobile regained its stability. Sorry, I'm used to driving maglev flying cars, so I'm not used to this antique car. Gohan explained to Chidien. What maglev flying car? Isn't that a train? Chidien muttered, looking ahead, and immediately said to Gohan nervously, Stop, stop, there's a red light in front. What red light? Don't worry about it. Gohan laughed, and the Batmobile went straight through the red light. The cars on both sides were so scared that they quickly braked to avoid this daring car. I ran the red light. I ran the red light. Chidien muttered to itself, with a little blush on its face. It could be seen that Chidien was very excited at this time. Sit tight, this is just the beginning. After Gohan said that, he stepped on the accelerator again. The Batmobile let out a monstrous roar and began to speed on the roads of Shanghai. Qidian glanced at the speedometer nervously and was shocked to find that the car had reached a terrifying speed of 220 kilometers per hour. It was about 10 o'clock in the evening. Although there weren't as many cars on the road as there were during the day, some roads were still very busy. While these cars were still moving slowly, with the cars in front carefully following the cars behind, a gust of wind blew past their cars. They didn't even see clearly what happened. They only saw a dark figure disappear at the end of the road. A girl in a miniskirt, who was standing on the side of the road, suddenly let out a scream. When the gust of wind blew past, her entire skirt was lifted up, revealing the smooth and black triangular area inside, which made the eyes of the surrounding men stare straight. My goodness, this girl actually went out without any clothes. This was really an unexpected benefit. Ah! So good. Ah! Qidian screamed in fear, but shouted happily at the same time. So good. Qidian had taken all kinds of cars in her life, but it was the first time she had taken a car that drove 200 kilometers per hour in the city. She saw the roads that usually required her to slow down, and even traffic jams for a few hours pass by in the blink of an eye. She saw that the surrounding car owners didn't understand what was going on at all, and their faces were full of shock. She felt the Batmobile's crazy dodging and drifting, all kinds of intersections, and quickly shuttling through the entire city in unpredictable curve. Qidian felt extremely good. As a resident of Shanghai, there was no one who didn't complain about the traffic in Shanghai. Everyone fantasized that they could do whatever they wanted in Shanghai and drive as fast as they wanted, but it was just a fantasy after all. Even if those people had the guts, they didn't have the ability to do so. They had the ability to do as they pleased, even if it was only a millimeter away from the countless cars in front of them. This was a feeling that Qidian had never felt in her life. She felt so good that she was about to fly. Qidian was feeling good, but Shanghai's traffic control department was going crazy. Since 5 minutes ago, countless police calls had been made to their department. The Guardian said that a car was driving at more than 200 kilometers per hour in the city, and they hoped that the traffic control department could quickly stop this lunatic. At first, the traffic control department didn't believe it. Who the hell had the ability to drive at 200 kilometers per hour in Shanghai? If there really was such a talent, they would immediately send him to the national racing team. However, as more and more police calls came in, the traffic control department had no choice but to look at the surveillance footage nearby. In the end, they were scared out of their wits when they saw the footage. F***ck, there was really someone driving at a speed of more than 200 kilometers per hour in Shanghai without slowing down at all, completely ignoring all the cars and traffic police in Shanghai. Attention everyone! Attention everyone! There's a black unlicensed car driving at 200 kilometers per hour in the city. Everyone, stop it immediately! Stop it immediately! Shanghai's traffic control department immediately issued an interception order, commanding all the traffic police in the office to stop such a daring car. At the same time, they began to order all the roads to be blocked, not allowing any vehicles other than police cars on the road to avoid major traffic accidents. The traffic control department's decision was undoubtedly correct. However, with the order to block the road, Gohan's speed became even more unscrupulous. It was slowly approaching the Batmobile's maximum speed of 300 kilometers per hour. Although the traffic control department's vehicles wanted to stop it, to be honest, who would have the guts to stop a crazy car that had reached 300 kilometers per hour? They could only watch as the Batmobile flashed past their car. Then, they had no choice but to start the engine and slowly chase after it at a speed of 100 kilometers per hour. This situation lasted for more than 20 minutes. Finally, the big boss of Shanghai was alerted. When the big boss heard that there was such an arrogant guy in Shanghai, he immediately flew into a rage. He said that no matter what the guy's background was, He had to catch him and hand him over to the people for trial. What kind of joke was this? Even a big boss wouldn't dare to reach 200 yards in Magic City. You're just a commoner. What right do you have to reach 300 yards in Magic City? What's the point of being Magic City's big boss then? With the big boss's order, this time, not only did the traffic control department start to take action, but the cars and police forces of the public security system and the armed police system also began to be mobilized. Finally, even the military sent people to block all the main roads in Shanghai. They began to encircle the daring Batmobile from all directions. Such a big scene also excited all the citizens of Shanghai. They posted all kinds of posts on the internet, guessing what had happened in Shanghai. In the end, many people agreed that there must have been a terrorist attack in Shanghai. Sigh. After all, it's not a maglev flying car. It can't fly. Gohan turned left and right on the road, trying to find a way to get out of the encirclement. In the end, he found that the power of the people and the government was really endless. All the roads were completely blocked by the tightly parked police cars. Unless the Batmobile could fly, Gohan would not be able to escape the people's judgment. Chidian, did you feel good? Gohan turned his head and asked Chidian. Yeah. Chidian let out a moan. This was not a moan of fear, but a moan of comfort. Chidian only felt a wave of pleasure attacking its brain, and the brain fed this pleasure to all parts of its body, making its skin red and some parts of its body moist. Come on. Now I'll let you experience the feeling of shopping in a car. Gohan's head moved closer to Chidian's ear and said in a charming voice. What? Before Chidian could react to what had happened, the Batmobile made a huge drift. The whole car made a 90-degree turn in an instant, and then directly rushed into a shopping mall on the side of the road. Ah! The staff in the shopping mall screamed and tried to avoid the rampaging car in the shopping mall. The various expensive luxury goods counters, such as Chanel, Louis Vuitton, Dior, and Versace, were all ruthlessly crushed in front of the Batmobile, turning into broken pieces on the ground, making the whole ground extremely sticky. Excuse me, I'm hungry. Give me 2 grilled sausages. Suddenly, Gohan stopped the Batmobile in front of a snack counter in the mall and threw a $100 bill to the dumbfounded salesperson. Okay. The salesperson had no idea what to do. He could only take 2 grilled sausages from the sausage grill machine, skewered them with wooden skewers, and handed them to Gohan in the car. It's okay. Keep the change. Gohan waved his hand and handed a grilled sausage to Chidian. He said with a smile, "Come on, try it and see if it's delicious." It's delicious. Chidian bit the grilled sausage in her mouth excitedly. Although she was extremely disdainful of this kind of food before, now she felt that she had never eaten such delicious grilled sausages in her life. At this time, Chidian was so excited that she almost couldn't speak. She often visited such malls on weekdays. Sometimes she even did the feat of booking the entire mall's goods. Anyway, her family was rich. But even if her family was rich, she had never driven a car in the mall. She even drove a car in the mall to buy grilled sausages. Such an experience, her little friends might not have the opportunity to experience in their lives. The Batmobile once again drove wildly in the mall. At this time, the police and police cars who received the news rushed directly into the mall and surrounded all the exits of the mall. They were ready to catch Gohan like a turtle in a jar. Hey! What do we do now? We are completely surrounded. Seeing this scene, Chidian said nervously. Let's go to the second floor now, Gohan said with his eyes squinted. Nanny! Before Chidian had time to be surprised, the Batmobile had rushed in front of the escalator. No one knew what Gohan did, but the front of the whole car instantly tilted up. The front wheels were directly attached to the handrails on both sides of the escalator. The four-wheel drive accelerated at the same time. The Batmobile directly went up along the handrails of the escalator and rushed to the second floor of the mall. Not only were all the onlookers shocked, but even Qi Dian in the passenger seat was shocked and speechless. But the second floor was just the beginning. Gohan kept going up along the escalator, and finally went directly to the 6th floor of the mall. This was also the highest floor of the mall. If he wanted to go up, he could only go to the office building through the stairs or the elevator. The 6th floor should be enough. Gohan made a turn so that the front of his car was facing the glass wall of the mall. Through this glass wall, he could clearly see the lights outside the wall and the Huangpu River under the light. What are you going to do now? Qi Dian had a bad feeling in his heart. Don't worry about it. You just unfasten the seat belt for me now. Gohan replied. What? Qi Dian was stunned. Are you kidding me? How can I unfasten the seat belt in a car going at 300 miles per hour? If it weren't for the seat belt protecting me, I'm afraid I would have flown out of the Batmobile. Does this Gohan want to kill me? Just unfasten it. I will give you a better experience, Gohan said with a cold face. Better? Qi Dian's face turned red. After hesitating for a while, he unfastened his seat belt. At the moment when the seat belt was unfastened, a strong big hand grabbed Qi Dian's arm. Come on. I will let you experience the feeling of flying over the Huangpu River. Gohan's head was close to Qi Dian's ear, and he said in a charming voice in Qi Dian's ear. The policemen who ran all the way finally came to the 6th floor of the mall. They were surprised to find that the Batmobile was parked against the wall on the 6th floor. Through the glass window, they could see that the driver was still in the Batmobile and had not left. These policemen were so excited that they wanted to arrest these two damned fellows. It was because of these two fellows that the entire Shanghai was turned upside down and they were as tired as dogs. This was considered light punishment. They heard that the big boss was furious. Not only did all the main leaders of the Traffic Management Bureau want to retire, but even the year-end bonuses of these ordinary soldiers were going to be deducted by more than half. For these small policemen and traffic policemen who had no power to be corrupted, this was extremely bad news. All of their hearts were filled with anger, and they wanted to drag out the two damn guys and beat them up. Unfortunately, their thoughts were destined to be delusional. The moment they appeared on the 6th floor, the Batmobile once again roared like thunder. Under the watchful eyes of the police, it completed the acceleration from a standstill to 200 kilometers per hour and finally broke through the glass curtain wall of the mall. The Batmobile flew out of the building like a scene that only appeared in a movie. It drew a beautiful curve in the air, and finally lost its inertia and fell into the careless Huangpu River. Quick! Go and save them! After being stunned for a while, the policemen immediately shouted. Because they were very close to the Batmobile, they could clearly see that the people in the car did not jump out of the car in the mall. In other words, they flew out with the Batmobile. In this case, their lives were definitely in danger. This was an excellent thing about the Chinese police, and that was, they knew when to change their position. These poor little policemen immediately put down their identities as pursuers and turned into rescuers. They quickly began to search around the mall for the two drivers. In addition, a large number of rescue boats arrived at the Huangpu River, and divers also dived into the water to see if they could find the two guys who did not care about their lives. It did not matter if they found their bodies or their bodies. Here. This is for you. Gohan grabbed a half-eaten lollipop from the hands of a little girl on the side, brought it in front of Qi Dian, and said with a smile, I snatched it. Eat it quickly. You bad guy, you actually have the nerve to snatch things from children. Qi Dian rolled its eyes at Gohan, but it directly put the half-eaten lollipop into its mouth, and shouted happily. Well, things that were snatched were fragrant, and the ones that were snatched from the little girl's hands were even more fragrant. Gohan smiled, picked up Qi Dian, who was still eating the lollipop, and flew up under the gaze of the crying little girl. Finally, he landed on the roof of Jin Mao Building. Then, he took out a set of bed from his dimensional pocket, threw Qi Dian on top of the bedding, and began to tear off the clothes on the other party's body. Be gentle. Why are you so anxious? Chidien did not have any intention of resisting, but actively cooperated with Guhan's actions. The two old couple could be said to have directly launched a soul-stirring fight on the roof of Jean Mao Building in Shanghai. Chapter 12:10. I gave my body to you, you have to take responsibility. After making love, Chi-Chi leaned on Guhan's arms and said coquettishly, You are my woman, of course I will take responsibility. Guhan smiled, then took out a note from his dimensional pocket and said, Good girl, read it again. This sentence again? Chi-Chi took the note and found that it was the sentence that Guhan asked her to read this afternoon. But today was different from the past. In the afternoon, Chi-Chi read it with resentment, but now she was shy. What, don't you miss it? Seeing the slight hesitation on Chi-Chi's face, Guhan immediately pretended to threaten, If you don't read it, then I won't marry you, you don't want to marry me anyway. Read it. I'll read it. Which ear did you hear me say I won't read it? Chi-Chi rolled her eyes at Guhan, shyly read the words on the note. Guhan, I like you so much, I will marry you and be your wife, okay? Captain, we have searched around the mall, the wreckage of the car has been found, but we can't find the shadow of the driver, whether it is the body or the corpse, there is no shadow. At the edge of the mall that was ruined by Guhan, at least 1,000 police officers surrounded it, every weed was pulled up and searched, but they still couldn't find the shadow of the daring driver. It doesn't make sense. So many comrades saw with their own eyes, when they rushed out of the mall, they were definitely still in the car. The criminal investigation captain touched his chin with some distress. What about the video? What about the surveillance video around the mall? Did you find any clues? Captain, the surveillance video in this mall is almost all internal, who would point the camera at Huangpu River. But through these cameras we can be sure that they did not get out of the car from beginning to end in the mall. Then don't just stare at the mall surveillance video. Collect all the other surveillance videos around the mall. Maybe someone's camera is pointing at Huangpu River. We have to find the two of them, or else we won't get our year-end bonus. The captain said in desperation. Captain, I found it, I found the way the car came from. At this moment, another police officer hurriedly ran over and said loudly, Tell me, what is the origin of the Batmobile? The criminal investigation captain asked quickly. An hour ago, we received a call from the Golden Palace Luxury Car Club, saying that two people cheated them of their limited edition Bugatti Batmobile, which is worth $10 million. I've seen the picture of that car. It's exactly the same as the car that caused the accident today. There's no mistake. This car is the Bugatti Batmobile that was lost at the Golden Palace Luxury Car Club. The criminal policeman said quickly. Why are you only telling me such important news now? Since they called the police an hour ago, why are you talking about it now? The criminal police captain scolded. Captain, this really has nothing to do with us. Although petty theft is a criminal case, it has always been handled by the patrol police. We criminal policemen don't intervene in these things. Even if people reported it, the 110 response center wouldn't hand the case over to us, right? If it weren't for this incident today, this case would still be in the police station, and it wouldn't be our turn to intervene in it, the criminal policeman said with grievance. Come on, don't be so arrogant. Let's go to the luxury car club with me. I want to see who is playing such a big show for me. The captain of the criminal police snorted coldly and left with his men. Soon, they arrived at the Golden Palace Luxury Car Club, and they also saw a big hole in the glass wall. It seems that this guy is used to hitting the wall. He doesn't like to go through the front door, so he goes through the back door. The criminal police captain said hatefully. Immediately, a guy in leather shoes with a big belly walked out of the luxury car club and greeted them with a bitter smile. Captain Chow, Miss Chow, we finally meet again, but I didn't expect it to be like this. Yes. The criminal police captain nodded. I always thought that the next time we meet would be when I put handcuffs on you, but I didn't expect it to be like this. This guy, you actually reported the case and asked us to come over. Is there anyone in this world who dares to steal business from you, young Master Chen? I say, Captain Chow, I am a good citizen who abides by the law. You can't slander me, young Master Chen said with a gloomy face. Come on, I won't tell you about the past. What happened? Tell me in detail. Captain Chow waved his hand. It's like this. Young Master Chen immediately told him what happened in his luxury car club. Captain Chow immediately asked to check the surveillance video of the luxury car club and saw Gohan and Chidian. Come and take a look. Don't they look like the two people in the surveillance video? Captain Chow pointed at the image of Gohan and Chidian in the surveillance video and asked. Yes, very similar. Although I'm not sure, it should be those two people. The criminal investigation team members around Captain Chow said. Can these two people be distinguished by their appearance? Captain Chow asked again. This is a little difficult. Both of them were wearing sunglasses, so it's difficult to distinguish their true appearance. Moreover, there are so many people in Shanghai. I'm afraid it's still very difficult to find them through this video. The criminal investigation team members around him replied. But the video here is much clearer than the video in the mall. This is a very important clue. I want to study this video carefully here. Captain Chow nodded and pointed to several criminal investigation team members around him. The few of you go out with young Master Chen and interrogate every salesperson in the store who was present at the time. See if you can get any clues from their mouths. Yes. Seeing that the criminal investigation team members and young Master Chen went out, Captain Chow immediately took out a USB from his pocket and plugged it into the computer. At the same time, he clicked on the surveillance video folder and began to copy a large number of surveillance videos directly into his USB. Chen, I haven't been able to find any evidence against you. I didn't expect the opportunity to come to me. If I don't take your surveillance video, how can I be worthy of the effort I've spent on you for more than half a year? Captain Chow's beautiful face showed a somewhat sinister smile. This young Master Chen never thought that his Batmobile would be stolen, and he would take the initiative to give his evidence to the police. About 10 minutes later, Captain Chow found someone walking towards the office through the surveillance. He immediately pulled out the USB cautiously. At the same time, young Master Chen and a criminal police officer walked in. Captain, this young Master Chen said, he has important information to tell you. The criminal police officer said. What information? It's like this. The video just now has been spinning in my head. I always feel that I've seen the woman wearing sunglasses somewhere before. Young Master Chen frowned and said while thinking hard. Where have you seen her before? Tell me in detail, Captain Chow said quickly. It's like this. Last year, I attended the coming-of-age banquet of Shunfeng Group's chairman's daughter, Wang Qiqi. I met Wang Qiqi a few times and even spoke a few times. I have a deep impression of her. Now that I think about it, the woman wearing sunglasses is very similar to Wang Qiqi in terms of body shape and facial contours. It feels like they're the same person. Young Master Chen said. Shunfeng Group's chairman's daughter? Are you kidding me? She's a big boss with a net worth of tens of billions. She could buy your Batmobile with just a strand of hair. Is there a need to rob her? Your brain must have gone haywire, Captain Chow said with a pout. I also thought it was very strange, so I didn't say it out loud. It's just that the more I thought about it, the more it seemed like it. I gradually felt uncomfortable in my heart, so I had to say it out loud, young Master Chen said with a bitter smile. There are many people who look alike in this world. Maybe these two people really look alike. Don't waste your time on this matter. The boundless world, my love. Captain Chow hadn't finished speaking when her phone rang. What? In the end, within a few seconds of the phone ringing, Captain Chow shouted in shock. Then, she whispered a few words to the person on the phone before putting down the phone with a heavy expression. Captain Chow, what's going on? Why are you so shocked? Young Master Chen saw and immediately asked curiously. All right, this matter has nothing to do with you. Let's go. Captain Chow ordered the team to retreat. Don't, Captain Chow. You have to tell me what to do if I lose my car. Young Master Chen saw that Captain Chow was leaving and immediately chased after her nervously. Don't worry, your car has been found, Captain Chow said with a smile. Really? Young Master Chen let out a long sigh of relief and immediately asked, Then where is my car? When can I get my car back? This is really a little troublesome. Captain Chow stroked her bangs. Your car is now lying in the Huangpu River. When we salvage it, we will let you know, and you can go get it. What? My car is in the Huangpu River? Young Master Chen was shocked. Are you kidding me? A super luxury car like the Batmobile, once it was soaked in water, it became worthless. The Batmobile that could be sold for $10 million was now sold for $5 million. In the blink of an eye, it lost half of its value. Young Master Chen even lost his underwear. Young Master Chen chased after her and wanted to say something to Captain Chow. Unfortunately, Captain Chow didn't care about him at all. He directly brought his men to the police car and left. Captain, what happened? After getting in the car, the team members asked Captain Chow curiously. AI, that guy with the surname Chen was right. Something really happened to the Missy of the Shunfeng group. Captain Chow's face was also full of shock. Just now, the station received a report that the Missy of the Shunfeng group went missing at home. We are going to the Missy's house immediately. What's wrong with this world? Troublesome things happen one after another. They don't even let us rest. Ah! Hearing Captain Chow's words, the other administrative team members immediately wailed. Captain, it's almost 10:30 at night. If we go to the Missy's house now, won't it drag on until midnight? So be it. What can I do when it comes to this? Don't I have to work overtime with you guys? Captain Chow rolled his eyes at his men. Listen, the boss of Shunfeng Group is a rich man. If you rescue his daughter, we'll be able to recoup our lost year-end bonus this year. Understood. Yes. Hearing Captain Chow's words, all the team members were immediately motivated. They howled like a pack of wolves. Just like what Captain Chow said, when they came out of the starting point's house, it was almost 1 a.m. Captain Chow and his men stayed at the starting point's house for nearly 2 hours, investigating inside and out. Unfortunately, they didn't find any useful clues. They could only determine that the suspect should have sneaked into the starting point's house through the window, and then kidnapped Wang Qiyuan through the window and left. But the strange thing was that Wang Qiyuan's house was located in the community with the best security conditions in the entire Shanghai. There were teams of security guards patrolling the community at all times, and there were surveillance cameras everywhere in the community. However, neither the security guards nor the surveillance cameras found any trace of the suspect or Wang Qiyuan. It was as if the two of them had flown away from the sky. There was also the window of Wang Qiyuan's house. As the richest family in Shanghai, her windows were naturally extraordinary. It was said that the bulletproof glass was exactly the same as the glass in the private car of the U.S. president. Also, the window was locked with a smart lock. Any attempt to open the window from the outside would cause the window to alarm. At the same time, the entire window would be completely locked. Unless one fired an RPG, they wouldn't be able to open the window. However, such a well-protected smart window was easily cracked by the suspect and directly kidnapped Wang Qiyuan from the room. Wang Qiyuan's parents downstairs didn't react at all. If it wasn't for Wang Qiyuan's mother seeing that Wang Qiyuan didn't come out to take a shower after a long time, she felt strange and forced herself into the room. Otherwise, she wouldn't have discovered that Wang Qiyuan had disappeared. By the way, Wang Qiyuan's father, Wang Jia, provided Captain Chow with a clue. That was, Wang Qiuan was in a bad mood when he returned home this afternoon. It was as if he was bullied by someone, so he locked himself in the room abnormally. Captain Chow instinctively felt that this was a very important clue. She felt that the person who made Wang Qiuan angry this afternoon was very likely to be the person who kidnapped Wang Qiuan tonight. The robbery and car racing were also done by this person. Wang Qiuan should have been coerced and controlled by the man, so he actively cooperated with the man's behavior when he stole the car. Thinking of this, Captain Chow's blood began to boil. This was a three-linked major case, and each case was a major case that shocked the entire Shanghai, especially the car racing case, which made the big boss furious. If she could solve this case, she would have a good chance of becoming the director of the Municipal Public Security Bureau. She might also become the first female director of the Public Security Bureau in the history of Shanghai. Thinking of this, she clenched her fists and secretly swore, "Stupid thief! I must catch you with my own hands, or I won't be called Chow Etienne." "Gohan, what's your plan? Will the two of us be stuck in this illusion forever?" On the roof of Jean Mao building, Qiuan said to Gohan worriedly. From her words, Qiuan could tell that at this time, Qiuan had completely recovered her original memory and became Gohan's sword lady again. "I have a feeling that if I can find all the sword ladies, then I can find the extinguished celestial sword hidden in the crowd. As long as I can restore the memory of the extinguished celestial sword, we can leave this world," Gohan said with certainty. "Then do you know how to restore the sword lady's memory?" Qiuan thought for a while and looked at the note in her hand. "You don't really think that as long as you say this we can really restore our memory? Don't worry, through your and Qing Pin's experiments, I have roughly figured out how to restore your memory." Gohan touched the hilt of Qing Pin's sword on the scabbard. Because of children's not easy, Qing Pin had been forced to be locked in the scabbard by Gohan. "What is it?" Gohan suddenly pushed Qidian down under him, and at the same time, his hands began to roam around Qidian's body, caressing it up and down. Very quickly, Qidian began to pant again. "Before I let you read the words on this note," because his mouth was stuck on Qiuan's soft flesh, Gohan's voice sounded a little humming, "I have to make you fall in love with me first. So, you have to attack Deyu, Juzi, Shui, Etienne, and the others one by one." A look of shame and anger appeared on Qidian's face as she kicked Gohan's stomach and said in a very unhappy tone, "You heartless person, get down for me. This old lady won't let you have a good time today." Chapter 12:11. Although she said that she wouldn't allow Gohan to attack other sword maidens, Qidian knew that it was something she couldn't stop. Not to mention that if Gohan didn't attack these sword maidens, he wouldn't be able to leave this virtual illusion. Even if he successfully left this illusion in the future, what would the other sword maidens think of him? Wouldn't he become the target of everyone? Therefore, even though she was unhappy, Qidian had no choice but to agree to Gohan's request. Not only did she agree to allow Gohan to attack other sword maidens, but she also agreed to cover and cooperate with Gohan's actions. "Captain Chow, we've found a few students from Shanghai University who witnessed what happened yesterday. They said that they saw a young magician harassing Miss Wang Qidian yesterday afternoon. Miss Wang Qidian seemed very angry and disliked the magician, but she couldn't get rid of him. In the end, she left the university angrily. I guess she locked herself in her room when she went home because of this magician." Early the next morning, Chow Etienne brought his elite subordinates to the University of Monster Science and Technology for an investigation. After the investigation, the criminal police officers began to report their findings. "Magician? What does magician have to do with this?" Chow Etienne asked in surprise. "It's like this. I heard that he's a magician who can open bottle caps from afar and absorb water from a dragon." The police officer hurriedly described in detail the little tricks that Gohan had performed with his sword Qi yesterday. Of course, in the eyes of the other students, such tricks could only be explained as magic, otherwise they would not be able to explain what had happened yesterday. According to what you said, he's quite a capable close-range magician, Chao Etienne said after listening to his subordinate's report. That's right. He should be a close-range magician, and an extremely skilled one at that. Otherwise, even with special equipment prepared in advance, it would be difficult to perform such a magical performance. According to the students, they were very close to the magician, but they didn't notice any flaws. It's simply amazing, the criminal police replied. Yes, that explains everything. Realization dawned on Chao Etienne's face. You're right. The person who kidnapped Miss Wang must be a very powerful close-range magician. This kind of person usually has a pair of extremely agile hands and an even smarter brain. Only this kind of person would have a way to crack the smart window in Wang Qiqi's house. That's right, that must be it. I'm 90% sure that the magician is the one who kidnapped Miss Wang. At this point, Chao Etienne glared at his men and shouted, "Why are you still standing here? Hurry up and get the surveillance footage. Let's see if we can capture the magician's face." Yes. The criminal police officers obeyed the order and quickly got the video in their hands, but the results were not satisfactory. When the magician walked, there was a child sitting on his shoulder. The child's feet blocked the magician's face, so they couldn't confirm the magician's face even after looking through all the videos. After receiving this rather unfavorable feedback, Chao Etienne thought for a while and quickly gave new orders to his men. He divided his men into 3 teams. The first team would follow the route that the magician took when he entered and left the school. Along the way, they would get all the surveillance footage to see if they could find 1 or 2 photos that could clearly capture his face. The second team would go online to social media platforms such as forums, Weibo, WeChat, Facebook, and so on. They would look for all news about close-range magicians. According to Chao Etienne's idea, all close-range magicians were performers. In essence, they were no different from celebrities. They were eager to show off and let everyone know about them. Therefore, those powerful magicians would definitely have their own public accounts on social media platforms such as Weibo and WeChat. By looking for all the close-range magicians who were in Shanghai during this period of time, they might be able to find the criminal suspect. The third team was sent by Chao Etienne to re-examine all the crime scenes to see if they could find any evidence that they had missed last night. Needless to say, with this 3-pronged approach, he really did find some useful clues. The first team to bring good news was the first team. They found a video of the magician on the ICBC's surveillance camera. In this video, the magician showed his face for the first time. However, due to the quality of the camera, the photo wasn't very clear. They could only vaguely determine the magician's face. Then, the third team brought good news. This team actually found an extremely important clue in the Golden Palace Luxury Car Club. It was the money that the man left behind. Because of her greed, the beautiful saleswoman didn't tell them about the tips when they first asked. It wasn't until the police asked for the second time that the beautiful saleswoman's psychological defense was broken. She confessed that she had received the man's tips in stacks of cash. In the end, the police seized all the cash. After examining the fingerprints on the cash, they found a few fingerprints that didn't belong to the beautiful saleswoman. However, the fingerprints were very clear. It was the criminal suspect's fingerprints. Of course, they couldn't be sure that they were the criminal suspect's fingerprints. This was because money was something that people passed by and had been touched by countless hands. The fingerprints on it were very complicated. They could only make a rough judgment based on how old it was. It couldn't be said to be conclusive evidence. The second team was the slowest to get the news. They searched the internet for a long time, and in the end, they only found 3 suspicious magicians. However, among the 3 magicians, one of them was an old man in his 70s. Obviously, he couldn't be the criminal suspect. The other magician was a well-known gay in the circle. On the afternoon of the incident, He was having sex with a group of male friends in a hotel. There were too many alibis, and according to some secret information held by the police, the popularity and strength of this close-up magician were mostly exaggerated. Although he was very famous, his skills were actually terrible, and he was despised by his peers in the circle. Adding these two conditions together, they could basically rule out the suspicion of this magician. The last magician was even less likely because the magician was a woman. When all the information was placed in front of Chao Etienne, he thought for a long time, showed a proud smile, and then pulled out the information of one of the three magicians. It's him. I think there's a 70% chance that the criminal is him. Chao Etienne took the magician's information and said with certainty, "It can't be, Captain. Are you mistaken?" Seeing the information that the captain pulled out, the team members said in disbelief, "That's right, it's this person." Chao Etienne confirmed once again. "But Captain, this is a woman," the criminal police said in confusion. "Humph. If she wasn't a woman, I wouldn't be so suspicious. But because she is a woman, I am even more certain that the criminal suspect is her," Chao Etienne said with a face full of pride and confidence. The other criminal police looked at each other, expressing that they were very confused. They didn't understand what the captain meant at all. "I told you a long time ago to think more, don't be confused by the appearance of the incident. Could it be that those students told you that the magician was a man, and today the salesperson told you that the person who bought the car was a man, then the criminal suspect is really a man?" Chao Etienne said loudly. "Yes. What's the problem? Could it be that those students and salesperson are lying to us?" The criminal police muttered to themselves. "Hey! I really have to give it to you guys. How did I end up with you clowns?" Chao Etienne looked at his subordinates as if they were retarded. Those students and salesperson, of course, wouldn't lie to us. In their eyes, the criminal is indeed a man. But don't forget, the criminal that we have locked onto this time is a close-range magician. As a magician, transfiguration, disguise, and makeup are all their basic skills. It's actually very easy for them to change their appearance. "Captain, what you mean is that the magician was actually disguised as a man, and she's actually a woman." Chao Etienne's subordinates finally understood. "That's right." Seeing that his subordinates had understood, Chao Etienne finally let out a sigh of relief. This is the brilliance of the criminal suspect, and it's also the criminal's trick. He purposely presented the illusion of a man in front of outsiders to confuse us. He wanted us to keep thinking about the identity of a man, so naturally we wouldn't suspect a woman. She could then hide in the dark and watch us make a fool of ourselves. "That's right. That's right. That's right, that's it. Oh my God, Captain, you're really a genius. We didn't even think of this." Hearing Chao Etienne's words, her subordinates all expressed their admiration, and then began to praise Chao Etienne's wisdom. If it were them, they would spend their entire lives thinking about the identity of a man. Only the great and intelligent Captain Chao could see the truth of the matter. He could be said to be the #1 criminal police officer in Shanghai. Chao Etienne nodded happily, then waved his hand. "Let's not delay any longer. Miss Wang is in the woman's hands, and her life is in danger at any moment. I've already reported to the chief, and he said that Miss Wang's safety is the most important. Don't be too strict with evidence or search warrant. You can act first and report later. You can act first and then collect the marriage certificate. So, we need to control that woman immediately and rescue Miss Wang." "Yes." The criminal police responded in unison. A few minutes later, more than a dozen police cars drove out of the police station and headed for Jean Mao Hotel in a grand procession. "Who is it?" Shui stretched and put on a bathrobe. After a series of knocks on the door, she lazily got up from the big bed and asked the door, "What's going on? It's so early in the morning." "I'm sorry, Miss He. Your room service is here. Please open the door." A somewhat sweet female voice came through the door. What the hell? I remember I ordered room service. Why does it sound like the plot of a movie? Are you the police who want to arrest me? When He Shui heard the words room service, she instinctively thought of the plot of a movie or TV series and could not help but complain. However, He Shui did not have much doubt in her heart, so she still opened the door obediently. As soon as the door opened, a woman rushed in and pressed He Shui down on the bed. Then, more than 10 police officers with loaded guns filed in, pointing their black muzzles at He Shui's head at the same time. He Shui was so scared that she immediately raised her hands and shrank in the corner of the wall, shivering. As she walked, she muttered, "It's really room service in the movie. I'm a magician, not a membrane magician. He Shui, you've got guts. You've committed such a big case, and you still dare to stay in the hotel. I Chao Etienne admire your gut. If you hadn't met me, you'd probably still be thinking that the police are all useless." Chao Etienne said with a smile. Seeing a few of his subordinates handcuff He Shui's hands, and at the same time 3 or 4 people firmly pressed her shoulders, making sure that she could not escape, Chao Etienne said proudly. These words seemed to be praising He Shui, but in fact, they were all praising himself. What did you say? I don't understand at all. I'm innocent. I want to see my lawyer. You have no right to treat me like this. He Shui struggled to say. Lawyer, it's useless even if you call the Heavenly Master here. Your case has already been exposed. We have sufficient evidence to prove that you were the one who kidnapped Miss Wang last night, robbed the Golden Palace Luxury Car Club, and caused havoc in the entire Shanghai. You better hand in your papers now, so that we don't have to waste time interrogating you, Chao Etienne scolded. What kidnapping, what robbery, what havoc in Shanghai? How can you slander me like this? I just arrived in this city yesterday afternoon, and I didn't even have time to play. I stayed in the hotel the whole time. How could I do such a thing? He Shui refuted. Yes. You entered the hotel at 12:30 p.m., and indeed, no one saw you come out of the room. You really look innocent. Chao Etienne sneered. But don't forget, no one saw you stay in the room the whole time. I have 1,000 ways to sneak out of the room and commit such a heinous crime without alerting other people and cameras, let alone a magician like you. You're slandering me. How did I offend you? Why are you framing me like this? He Shui screamed loudly. Her scream seemed innocent, but it also sounded like she had a guilty conscience. Report, the entire room has been checked, and there's no trace of Miss Wang. There's also no trace of a second person living here. At this time, the criminal police in charge of searching the room came over and reported to Chao Etienne. That's not surprising. It's too troublesome to bring someone's money back to the hotel, and it's too unsafe. I guess she must have hidden Miss Wang somewhere else. Maybe she's in an abandoned factory. After saying that, Chao Etienne turned around and looked at He Shui, who was in front of him. I'll give you a chance. You tell me honestly where Miss Wang is, and I'll consider it as you turning yourself in. Otherwise, with the crimes you've committed, I promise you'll be in jail forever. I didn't. I really didn't. Of course, He Shui couldn't admit to such an unfounded thing. Chao Etienne interrogated her for a long time, but He Shui insisted that she was innocent. Chao Etienne had no choice but to take her to the police station first. Just as he was about to conduct a surprise interrogation, a phone call suddenly appeared on Chao Etienne's phone. What? Hearing what was said on the phone, Chao Etienne shouted in surprise, and his eyeballs almost fell out. Chapter 12:12. What? You said Wang Qiqi is already home? Did you get home safely? Chao Etienne hung up the phone in a daze. A shocking piece of news came from the other end of the phone. Wang Qiqi, who had been missing for a day and a night, had actually returned home. F***ck, did I really make a mistake? Looking at the back of He Shui, who was locked up in the detention center, Chao Etienne muttered unconfidently for the first time in his life. Captain Chao, what should we do now? The surrounding police officers had also figured out what was going on from Chao Etienne's words and were at a loss as to what to do. What do you mean, what should we do? Of course we should immediately go to Miss Wang's house and investigate the matter, Chao Etienne said with a livid face. Then what about this magician? The criminal police officers looked at the location of the detention center with a guilty conscience. He Shui could be considered an internationally famous close-range magician. If the news of such a mistaken arrest and misjudgment were to spread, their entire police station would probably have to face a lawsuit. They hadn't even digested the blame from yesterday, and today, another one was going to hit them on the head. What do you mean, what should we do? Of course we should continue to lock her up. Although Chao Etienne was also very worried, he still forced himself to calm down and said, even if Miss Wang is back, it doesn't mean that this magician is innocent. Maybe Miss Wang escaped from the place she was locked up? Or maybe this magician and the person who kidnapped her are in cahoots, and they both committed the crime together? Before the matter is clear, lock her up in the detention center and don't let her out. Yes. Although these police officers could already see that Chao Etienne was putting on a strong front, they had no choice but to follow the captain's words. If the captain was right, then they didn't arrest the wrong person. If the captain was wrong, then the main responsibility would be on Chao Etienne. They could also take the opportunity to unload the burden and clear the punishment of arresting the wrong person. Chairman Wang, when will Miss Wang come down? We've been waiting for almost an hour. In the hall of the Wang family's villa, Chao Etienne asked Wang Jia, the CEO of Shunfeng Group, in front of him anxiously. Captain Chao, don't ask me. I don't know when she will come down either. Wang Jia's face was still filled with indignation and worry. Although my daughter is back, she's not in a good state of mind. She's still resting in her room. Just wait here until she's well rested. Chao Etienne's face darkened when he heard Wang Jia's unyielding words. If it was an ordinary family, Chao Etienne would have forcibly woken up the sleeping lady. However, the problem was that the person in front of her was the richest man in Shanghai. Not only was he a guest of the big boss of Shanghai, but he also often attended all kinds of meetings with the #1 chief and participated in all kinds of overseas visits. Chao Etienne couldn't afford to offend such a person's influence and identity. Although she had a strong passion for solving cases, she also had a strong passion for promotion. She didn't want her path to promotion to fall into the hands of this big boss. In the end, he waited for almost 3 hours. When Chao Etienne felt like his head was about to explode, he decided that no matter how powerful the Wang family was, he was going to rush up and drag Wang Qiqi down. At that moment, the Missy finally arrived and slowly walked down the stairs. Sigh. I shouldn't have squeezed her so hard yesterday. I'm trying to make that heartless guy have no energy to harm other women. Qiqi thought helplessly as she walked down the stairs. Last night, when she heard Gohan say that he was going to woo other sword ladies and use his love to awaken their memories, Qiqi's jealousy rose to her throat. Although she had no choice but to agree to Gohan's request, she was still very unwilling. She simply used the methods of a woman and asked Gohan for a total of 7 or 8 times. She tried to use this method to make Gohan not have the strength to do so that he would not harm the other sword ladies. In the face of such pressure, Gohan naturally did not refuse. The two of them worked until 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning before they stopped. However, after they stopped, because of Yuan Ko's body, Gohan was still full of energy. However, Qiqi, who was just an ordinary person, couldn't take it anymore. She squeezed her legs tightly together and could barely stand up. Under Gohan's escort, she returned to the neighborhood near her home. Then, she followed him back home and fell asleep. She only woke up slowly when the sun was high up in the sky. I heard from my dad that the people from the Public Security Bureau are here. This is a bit troublesome. Guhan only cared about King me last night, but he didn't tell me how to deal with the police. What should I say when the police ask me questions? Chidian was troubled. However, when she walked down the stairs and looked up to see who the police officer sitting on the sofa was, she was so shocked that her mouth almost fell open. Etienne, she's actually a police officer. After spending so much time with the other sword ladies, Chi-Chi naturally recognized that the female police officer sitting on the sofa was Guhan's sword lady, Etienne's sword. She was shocked. She never thought that she would meet the third sword lady in this way. I thought Etienne was either a gambler or a drunkard. I didn't expect her to be a police officer. Chi-Chi thought it was funny when she thought about this. It was hard for her to connect Etienne, who liked to drink, gamble, and lie to children, with the image of a police officer. Forget it. If I didn't recover my memory, I wouldn't have thought that I would become a rich lady. While Chi-Chi was thinking, she unknowingly sat on the sofa opposite Etienne. Baby, did you sleep well? Do you want to go back and sleep? Let these police officers wait a little longer so I can treat them to a meal. Wang Jia looked at her daughter's dazed expression. She thought that her daughter didn't sleep well or that she was traumatized. She immediately said with concern, "Don't. We still have a case to deal with. We don't dare to stay for dinner. Just ask a few questions. It'll be quick," Etienne said before Chi-Chi could speak. What a joke. She had already waited for more than 3 hours. She was going to go crazy when it was time for dinner. It's okay. Ask away. It's okay. I was just a little dizzy just now. Chi-Chi nodded and said calmly, "All right then. Thank you for your cooperation, Miss Wang. We'll just ask a few questions," Chao Etienne said quickly. She then asked impatiently, "May I ask Miss Wang, what time were you kidnapped by the suspect yesterday? How did the suspect break in through the window?" "I don't know," Chi-Chi answered with a blank expression. "I was very tired at that time. I was sleeping on the bed. When I woke up, I was already under the person's control. I don't know the exact time and how he broke the window." "Oh," Chao Etienne nodded. "Do you remember the suspect's appearance, figure, gender, and so on?" "Very ordinary appearance. He's about 1.76 meters tall. Of course, he's a man," Etienne said. "A man?" Chao Etienne's face froze. She asked again to confirm, "Are you sure it's a man? Are you 100% sure that he's a man? Do you even need to ask?" Chi-Chi's face turned red. "I'm very sure that he's a real man. It's over." Hearing this, Chao Etienne felt bitter in her heart. Chi-Chi's words almost told Chao Etienne that her judgment was wrong. He sure Shui wasn't the suspect. He was just an unlucky child. Chao Etienne's case wasn't solved, but she was going to be in big trouble. "How did the suspect bring you out of the house? We've looked at the surrounding surveillance footage, but we couldn't find how you guys left." Chao Etienne asked weakly. "He flew over." Chi-Chi thought about it and decided to answer the question honestly. "He flew over with me in his arms." "What, fly?" Chao Etienne almost bit her tongue. What kind of *T answer was that? Were there birdmen in this world? "Miss Wang, you better think carefully before you answer. If you're feeling dizzy, you should rest a bit more. Don't give me some random answer," Chao Etienne said with a bitter smile. "Captain Chao, I'm very calm and very awake right now. I can tell you very clearly that I was carried by him all the way to the Golden Palace Luxury Car Club." Chi-Chi used a very clear voice to confirm again. "How is that possible?" Before Chao Etienne could finish, Wang Jia coughed and suddenly interrupted. "Officer Chao, you may have been on the front line of the criminal investigation industry, so you don't know much about the recent developments in the technology world. I just came back from the United States last month. The top technology companies in the United States have already developed a single-person flying device. It's about the size of a backpack, and it can fly about 50 kilometers. Do you think it's possible that the suspect used this kind of single-person flying device? There's such technology? Chao Etian was shocked, but she calmed down instead. A big shot like Wang Jiao wouldn't lie to a police officer like him. There must be such a single-person flying device in the United States. Judging from the distance, the Wang family's house was about 40 kilometers away from the Golden Palace Luxury Car Club, which was within the range of a single-person flying device. From a technological point of view, it could perfectly explain how the man was able to escape from all the surveillance. Then Miss Wang, did you see the person carrying a backpack on his back? Chao Etian immediately asked Chi-Chi. Now that you mention it, I remember that he was carrying a backpack on his back. Chi-Chi couldn't think of a perfect way to explain Gohan's ability to fly, so she said it casually. Realizing that everything was within the range of scientific explanation, Chao Etian let out a long sigh of relief. He then asked Chi-Chi about other things, such as the situation at the Golden Palace Luxury Car Club, the car racing situation, and the situation at the shopping mall. When we finally flew out of the mall, he was the one who grabbed my shoulder, then opened the door and flew out. Finally, we landed near a remote factory, and then he locked me there for the whole night. When the interrogation was about to end, Chi-Dian answered. I see. No wonder we couldn't find you near the shopping mall. You flew out. Although this explanation sounded extremely awkward and didn't seem to be true at all. But this was the only explanation that could explain why Chi-Dian and the others disappeared into thin air in the Batmobile. Then, Miss Wang, how did you escape? If the suspect is really as powerful as you said, how did a weak girl like you escape from him? Chao Etian asked the biggest question in his heart. I didn't escape, he let me go. Etian said faintly. He dropped me off near my house this morning, and I walked home by myself. He let you go? Why is that? Chao Etian almost jumped off the sofa. She couldn't understand what the suspect was thinking. This criminal suspect had used magic, used a newly developed single-person flying device, and even spent a lot of effort to rob a Batmobile. Now, the whole of Shanghai was in a frenzy, causing chaos in the whole of Shanghai. If it weren't for the control order issued by the higher-ups to control all the news media and prevent them from reporting the truth of last night, they would only say that the whole city was carrying out a large-scale anti-terrorism exercise to deal with possible terrorist threats in the future. Only then would they be able to suppress most of the citizens' doubts. But after all, there were still many witnesses who saw what happened with their own eyes, and they also saw the crazy Batmobile. In order to delete the scattered posts and news on the internet, the people in the publicity department of the Municipal Party Committee were so anxious that their hair turned white. This criminal suspect paid such a high price and made such a big move. He thought that he wanted to capture the daughter of the richest man to ask for a large ransom, but he never expected that the other party would release Wang Chi-Chi in the end. This was simply unreasonable. Miss Chi-Chi, you better tell me the truth. Otherwise, even if you are Miss Wang, I will have to ask you to go to the police station. Chao Etian sorted out her emotions and felt that Wang Chi-Chi might be lying, so she said in a low voice. Officer, please watch your words. What right do you have to bring my daughter to the police station? I will ask my lawyer to contact your director. Don't make things ugly for everyone. Hearing Chao Etian's threat, Wang Jiao knocked on the coffee table in front of him meaningfully. Stop knocking. Director Wang, you can't scare me. You know how big this incident is. I heard that the secretary has already smashed 7 or 8 cups. Just the direct leaders of our public security department, 4 of them retired early. If this matter isn't cleared up and the suspect isn't caught, even if you are the richest man in the country, you won't be able to withstand the anger of our secretary. You! Wang Jiao was so angry that he wanted to say something, but he shut his mouth when the words were about to come out. As the richest man in Shanghai, he clearly knew how big the impact of this incident was in Shanghai. This officer wasn't lying. If his daughter refused to tell the truth, maybe the big shot would deal with him harshly, just like the rich man with the surname Huang. It's okay. Just say it. It's already happened anyway. Your daughter doesn't think it's embarrassing. Wang Qiqi smiled awkwardly, revealing a sad and desperate expression. He said that his net worth is more than 1 billion, and he doesn't care about money. He doesn't care about money? Then what does he want? Chao Etienne continued asking. Men like nothing more than money, power, and sex. Since he doesn't care about money and he can't get power by kidnapping me, then the only thing I can give him is sex, Wang Qiqi said in a calm but explosive voice. Could it be? Chao Etienne closed her mouth halfway. With the richest man in Shanghai here, she didn't dare to speak carelessly. There's nothing to hide. You guessed it right, I was raped by him, Qiqi said lightly. I'm sorry for bothering you today. I'm very sorry. The questioning finally ended. Chao Etienne, who looked embarrassed, said goodbye under Wang Jia's angry gaze. As he packed his things and prepared to leave, he muttered to himself in distress, This is big trouble. How am I going to explain this to He Shui? Wang Qiqi's eyes lit up when he heard that. He hurriedly called out to Chao Etienne, Officer Chao, I think you said a name just now. Can you repeat it for me? Oh, I said He Shui. Is there a problem with this name? Chao Etienne raised her head and asked in surprise. That's right, I remember now. When the man was King me, I sneakily looked at his phone and found that there was a photo of a woman on the screen. Later, I clicked on his contact list and wanted to call my father's phone to call the police. In the end, I found that the name of an accepted call was He Shui. What? Chao Etienne was so excited that she jumped up. Without a word, she took out her phone and showed Wang Qiqi a photo. Miss Wang, take a look. Is this the same person in these two photos? That's right. This photo is exactly the same as the one on the man's phone. This is the same person, Wang Qiqi said with certainty. Chapter 12-13. The ancients liked to talk about twists and turns. At first, Chao Etienne didn't know what it meant, but now she understood. It turned out that this was the meaning of twists and turns. Unexpectedly, in the end, He Shui was really the accomplice of the criminal suspect. With Wang Qiqi's confession, Chao Etienne finally breathed a sigh of relief. This time, she didn't have to worry about being the scapegoat. Thank you, Miss Wang. I'm going to interrogate the criminal now. After Chao Etienne finished speaking, she immediately prepared to leave Wang Qiqi's house and go to the Public Security Bureau to interrogate He Shui. Goodbye, Captain Chao. I'm also tired. I'll go up and sleep for a while. Wang Qiqi nodded and went upstairs to her room. Wang Qiqi returned to her room with a tired face, but as soon as the door was closed, Wang Qiqi regained her vitality. She took out her mobile phone and couldn't wait to make a call. Hello? What's the matter? Is there a problem? The phone was quickly connected, and Gohan's tired voice came from the other end of the phone. What are you doing now? Wang Qiqi asked hurriedly. Didn't I tell you already? I'm currently wandering around the city to see if I can find Tian and the others. Guhan's voice was indeed very tired. It was probably because the matter of finding them was too depressing for him. Hey, let me ask you. If I help you find them, what reward will you give me? Qiqi asked happily and expectantly. Stop fooling around. You haven't left the house since I sent you home. How can you find the person you're looking for? Guhan said with a face full of disbelief. Don't look down on me. I'm the kind of woman who knows everything in the world without going out. To tell you the truth, I didn't just find one sister now. I found 2 sisters. Qiqi said proudly. Let me tell you, if you don't give me a satisfactory reward this time, I'll let you find them alone. I won't say a word. Really? Gohan paused for a moment, then put away his joking tone. Then tell me, what kind of reward do you want? Alright, I want you to promise me that after we leave this illusionary realm, you must stay away from Etienne, Juzi, Shui, Zhu Xian, Juexian. That's right, and Xianyuan. That's right, and the 2 future sword maidens of the celestial sword tier. You must stay far away from them. You're not allowed to have any ill intentions towards them. Itian spoke loudly. Her words included all the other sword maidens besides Qin Pin and Duyu, whom Gohan would never have any ill intentions towards. She could be considered to have completely revealed her intention to monopolize Gohan. Why didn't you include Wen Meiyun as well? It was conceivable that on the other end of the phone, Gohan couldn't help but roll his eyes. Don't think that I don't know that Wen Meiyun and her mother have already been taken in by you. You can't possibly give them to others. Anyway, they're just 2 maids. Women who can't enter the main hall. I'm not really jealous of them, Qidian said arrogantly. However, there was actually another reason that Qidian didn't say, and that was that Wen Meiyun and her mother were humans and not sword maidens. This made Qidian not take them seriously. Only Gohan and the other sword maidens were true opponents in Qidian's eyes. Is that so? Then let me think about it, Gohan said with some hesitation. What think about it? Let me tell you, if you don't give me an answer in 3 minutes, I definitely won't tell you where they are. Qidian now had a handle in its hands, and it began to wantonly knead Gohan. Alright. It's been 3 minutes, you should tell me the answer. Actually, it hadn't even been 3 minutes, and Qidian asked impatiently again. Oh, then you can keep this secret. There's no need to tell me. Gohan replied indifferently. What? You don't want to know where Itian and Shui are? Qidian immediately turned pale with fright when it heard Gohan give it a negative answer without hesitation. She could hear that Gohan wasn't joking with her. He really rejected her deal, so Qidian accidentally said the names of the 2 sword maidens. Of course I want to know. Gohan on the other end of the phone smiled and said with slight mockery, but I already found where they are. That's impossible. How did you find them? I clearly didn't reveal any information to you. Qidian asked in disbelief. This deal of yours is the biggest spoiler. Gohan smiled even more happily. You didn't go out of your house, but you could find Itian and Shui. Then it's very likely that these 2 people came looking for you. Also, other than your friends and relatives, the only people who would come looking for you are the people from the Public Security Bureau. So just 3 minutes ago, I specially searched the official website of the Public Security Bureau and happened to see the news that our Miss Chao Etian solved another big case. Isn't it delivered to me now? Gohan's words made Qidian so angry that she almost spat out blood. How could this guy be so smart? He found Chao Etian with just 1 sentence and 1 clue. She felt like she had become someone else's wedding dress. What about Shui? I don't believe you can find where she is, Qidian said unwillingly. Oh, I guess you definitely didn't see our Miss Chao Etian's Weibo. Gohan pouted. I just took a look at Chao Etian's Weibo and found that she just followed a new friend. This friend's magic is called passing fleeting time. I followed the link and found all of them. According to Shui's Weibo, she just arrived in Shanghai yesterday afternoon and even took a picture of the city's background. It's the Jin Mao building where we were together this morning. Do you think I still need to find it? Okay. You're smart, you're amazing, I give up. Hurry up and go to Jin Mao building to find Shui. Etian said weakly like a deflated tire, but there was still some joy in his heart. No matter how smart this Gohan was, he would still misjudge some things. This Shui was not at Jin Mao building at all. She was caught by Chao Etian and brought to the Public Security Bureau. If Gohan went directly to Jin Mao building, he would definitely find nothing. At that time, he could mock this self-righteous guy. Who said I was going to Jin Mao building? Shui is not there. Gohan's words instantly penetrated Qidian's heart. If Shui is not at Jin Mao building, then where could she be? Qidian pretended to be natural and asked. Of course, she was locked up by our Etian. Gohan continued in an orderly manner. I just looked through all the Weibo of Etion's friends and found that a Weibo profile picture of a Weibo wearing a police cap uploaded a photo. The location happened to be Jinmao Building, and there was a police car in the back of the photo. Moreover, many of Etion's police friends also followed Shurshui's Weibo at the same time as Etion. So I guess that Etion must have arrested our poor Shurshui as the murderer for some extremely stupid reason. Otherwise, you wouldn't know about Shurshui when you saw Etion. So I guess this Shurshui might have become my scapegoat and suffered for me. But this is also Etion's character. She seems to be a little smart, but in fact, she is stupid and adorable. No matter which world she goes to, she has never changed. It's really interesting. Speaking of this, Gohan suddenly laughed out loud. You. Chidian stuttered for a long time, but couldn't say a word. She was completely conquered by Gohan's amazing imagination and associative analysis ability. In the end, she could only hang up the phone angrily and give up this failed deal. This Etion really knows how to make trouble. Gohan hung up the phone and thought helplessly. Although he already knew where Etion and Shurshui were, attacking Etion and Shurshui made Gohan feel that it was a little troublesome. After all, Gohan's ability to analyze problems might be enough, but his ability to pick up girls needed to be improved. The reason why he was able to get a good impression from Chinpin and Chidian and clear these two quests was because Gohan was very familiar with Chinpin and Chidian. Their relationship value was already full, so it was naturally very easy for him to clear these two quests. However, Etion and Shurshui were different. Although Etion had followed Gohan before Chidian and could be considered as Gohan's second sword lady, Etion had always maintained a distant attitude towards Gohan. Although something indescribable had happened between the two of them at some point in time, it came to an abrupt end very quickly and didn't really touch the bottom line. Since then, Etion had been hiding from Gohan, going out to drink, sing, and gamble every day. Gohan's understanding of Etion was actually very shallow, so he couldn't come up with an idea on how to attack Etion in such a short time. As for Shurshui, it was even more troublesome. Shurshui's previous identity was Reina Takasaka, and her relationship with Gohan was extremely complicated. Even Gohan didn't know whether Reina Takasaka loved or hated him. Ever since Reina Takasaka became Gohan's sword lady, the time they spent together didn't exceed 12 hours. She would always try to avoid Gohan as much as possible. She would either stay in her room and not come out, or hide in her scabbard for a long time. She didn't have any emotional communication with Gohan. Such a woman gave Gohan a bigger headache than Etion. Forget it. Let's find these two first. Gohan smiled helplessly, threw these worries to the back of his mind, and walked towards the Public Security Bureau. Chapter 12-14. Comrade, what can I do for you? In the police station's reception room, the two beautiful policewomen looked at the somewhat sturdy and rustic man in front of them and asked with a frown. This man was dressed like a rustic from head to toe, his nails and feet were all covered in fresh mud, and he was holding a red pennant under his armpit. In his left hand were 2 live chickens and ducks that smelled like chicken, and in his right hand was a box of trenso milk. However, it must be noted that this was just the same as the packaging of trenso milk. In fact, the words written on the box of milk were trenso. 2 female comrades. I am Gu Jiangwo, a villager from Fuqiao town. The rustic farmer nervously said, Wasn't our case solved by Captain Chow? I'm here to thank Captain Chow. So you're from Fuqiao town. The 2 beautiful policewomen suddenly realized. A while ago, a big case happened in Fuqiao town. It was a serial murder case. 4 or 5 people were killed in Fuqiao town one after another. At that time, the entire Fuqiao town was in a state of panic. More than half of the villagers fled to the city, which created a very bad influence. In the city, all kinds of rumors were rampant. Later, this difficult case fell into the hands of Captain Chow. Captain Chow organized a capable police force to work for 3 days and 3 nights without rest, successfully solving the case and arresting the criminal suspect. This also became a great credit to the team. He was personally praised by Shanghai's secretary. Now, the news was still on the front page of the Public Security Bureau's website. Yes. The farmer nodded again and again. The Dead Man Street is right next to my house. I couldn't even sleep for a few days. Thanks to Captain Chow, we can sleep peacefully. Therefore, I deliberately got 2 chickens and ducks, bought a box of milk, and made a pennant to give to Captain Chow. 2 female comrades, please do me a favor and tell me where Captain Chow is. How about this, you leave it in Captain Chow's office. Later on, you can tell Captain Chow that you've sent your regards. When the 2 beautiful policewomen heard that he was here to deliver a silk banner, their faces immediately lit up. After all, this was a good thing. No, I must personally thank Captain Chow. 2 female comrades, please tell me where I can see Captain Chow. The farmer said stubbornly. This farmer brother, it's not that we don't want to tell you, it's just that Captain Chow is currently investigating a case. According to the rules, she can't see any guests right now. This is the rule of our bureau. We can't help you make an exception. The 2 beautiful policewomen earnestly said. All right, then I can wait. I'll sit here for a while. I'll wait for Captain Chow to finish her interrogation before I see her again, okay? The farmer was still stubborn. That's fine, but according to Captain Chow's habits, I'm afraid she will work overtime until midnight. The 2 policewomen said awkwardly. Then I'll wait too. I don't care even if I have to wait until tomorrow morning. I'm a farmer. I have plenty of energy. 1 night is nothing. Seeing that the farmer was so enthusiastic, the 2 policewomen found it hard to refuse. They could only pour him a cup of boiled water and let him wait in the reception room. I say, 2 female comrades, is Captain Chow interrogating a case in this interrogation room? The farmer was probably bored sitting there. He got up and walked around in the reception room. As a result, he found that there were diagrams of the various departments of the Public Security Bureau hanging on the wall. So, he pointed to the name of the interrogation room marked on the diagram and asked, No, this is usually the interrogation room for small cases. This time, it's a big case. It's being interrogated in the detention room behind our bureau. A policeman subconsciously replied. I don't understand, it's so complicated. The farmer shook his head with a little doubt. Then, he sat back on the chair. Seeing the farmer's attitude, the 2 policewomen didn't have the slightest doubt. They felt that this was a matter of course. Time passed by, and soon, it was lunchtime. Although the 2 policewomen repeatedly invited the farmer to eat in the canteen of the Public Security Bureau, the farmer took out 2 or 3 steamed buns and a pot of tea from his pocket and strongly refused the invitation of the 2 policewomen. The 2 policewomen were helpless. They could only carry the rice bowl to the canteen to get some food, leaving the farmer in the reception room. He's just an honest and lovely farmer. It's impossible for him to cause any trouble. This was the thought of the 2 policewomen when they left. As a result, when the 2 policewomen left, the seemingly honest farmer immediately stood up. He took off his plain clothes, and at the same time, a light flashed in his hand. A set of green formal police uniform was directly put on his body. At this time, it was lunchtime. Most of the police were concentrated in the canteen. There were very few police in the Public Security Bureau building. So, Gohan passed through most of the Public Security Bureau unimpeded and entered the detention room behind the Public Security Bureau. At this time, a policeman walked over with a large bag of various lunchboxes. Little Sue, bring food to Captain Chow. Gohan's eyes were bright. He saw the badge on the policeman's body from a distance. His name was written on it, so Gohan went up and asked with enthusiasm and familiarity. Captain Chow is in the midst of a surprise interrogation. He won't go to the canteen to eat, so I can only bring it here. The policeman answered directly without thinking. But when he got closer to take a look, he felt that something was wrong. He asked curiously, "Brother, are you new here? Why haven't I seen you before?" "Oh, my friend is inside. I'm here to save her," Gohan replied with a smile. "Save?" The policeman immediately felt that something was wrong. His right hand instinctively reached for his waist. But how could his speed compare to Gohan's? Before he could reach the gun at his waist, he was directly hit on the back of the head by Gohan. The policeman's eyes rolled back and he fainted. The lunchbox in his hand naturally fell to the ground. But Gohan's eyes were sharp and his hands were quick. He gently grabbed the lunchboxes that were about to fall to the ground and saved them. Then, he conveniently put the policeman's gun on his waist. Carrying a large bag of lunchboxes, Gohan swaggered to the detention room. The policeman standing guard in the detention room saw Gohan, who was wearing a police uniform and a police hat, walking over with a large bag of lunchboxes. They didn't suspect anything at all. They didn't even bother to look at his face and just let him pass. Gohan released a stream of sword energy and stuck it on the wall. Through the vibration of the wall, he could determine whether there was anyone moving inside the wall, whether there was anyone talking, and how many people were talking. Soon, Gohan found that the room with the third interrogation room sign was the noisiest. So, he gently knocked on the door and imitated Officer Su's voice. "Captain Chow, I brought your lunch. Come in. The door isn't locked." A familiar voice came from the room. It made Gohan's heart palpitate. That's right, this is Etienne's voice. When Gohan pushed the door open and entered, he found a total of 3 people sitting in the interrogation room. Among them, Chao Etienne and 2 other policemen were sitting in front of a table. Shui was restrained on an interrogation chair. She didn't even change out of her detention uniform. She was wearing the clothes she was wearing when she was arrested. Obviously, this interrogation was carried out very quickly and in a hurry. "Captain, let's eat. The food is getting cold." Gohan continued to imitate Officer Su's voice. "All right, put the food aside. We'll talk after the interrogation is over," Chao Etienne said without turning his head. Since the other party didn't turn his head, Gohan was happy not to be discovered. He just stood behind Chao Etienne and admired Officer Chao's interrogation. "I say, Shui, how long are you going to quibble? If you tell us where your accomplice is now, I can still consider it as you voluntarily surrendered. This way, you don't have to be locked up for 8 to 10 years. Give me 2 to 3 years and I'll let you out. You'd better seize this opportunity and tell us everything clearly," Chidian said aggressively. "I already said that I've been sleeping in the room. I don't know anything. How did I offend you? Why do you have to mess with me like this and say that I'm an accomplice? Is there such a logic in this world?" Shui said very agitatedly. Her hands couldn't help but move up and down. Even the entire interrogation chair was making crackling sound. "It seems that you don't even want your last chance. Then I'll fulfill your wish." Chao Etienne waved his hand. The policeman next to him took the remote control and clicked it. A clear image appeared on a projection screen on the wall. Upon closer inspection, it was the video of Chao Etienne and Wang Chidian's interrogation. Of course, Chao Etienne played the entire video. He only cut off the last part of the video, which was the part where Wang Chidian was talking about Shui. "See? This is the testimony of the hostage. She clearly told us that you were in contact with the kidnapper, and you had a very deep connection. Otherwise, how could the kidnapper use your photo as a mobile phone desktop and call you during the crime?" Seeing this video, Shui was so angry that she almost vomited blood. She couldn't understand why Wang Chidian would frame her like this. However, she was a smart person after all. At this critical moment, she keenly thought of something and immediately said to Chao Etienne, "Okay, since she said that I called the kidnapper, then you can check the communication records of my mobile phone." Don't continue to quibble. Don't think that we can't do anything to you just because you deleted the communication record. I have already asked someone to check the communication records of the mobile company. As long as the communication records are there, I want to see how you can quibble. Okay then. Shui was about to refute, but halfway through her words, she suddenly heard the sound of hands clapping in the interrogation room. Forget it, Shui. Stop acting. I'm here to save you. When Chao Etienne heard this, he immediately took out a pistol from his body and turned around, ready to shoot. However, her speed was still a step too slow. Just like Police Officer Su before, she was hit directly on the back of her head. However, Chao Etienne's willpower was much stronger. Unlike Police Officer Su, who immediately fainted, Chao Etienne still retained consciousness for a short period of time. During this short period of time, she clearly saw Gohan's incomparably eye-catching face. Chapter 12-15. What's going on? What the hell is going on? In the conference room, the director of the Shanghai Public Security Bureau slammed the table in front of him. More than a dozen policemen on both sides of the conference table were as quiet as cicadas in winter, and they didn't even dare to breathe. Well, the whole Shanghai Public Security Bureau, 78 elites, were all knocked down in less than 5 minutes, and the important criminal suspect was also lost. Do you want me to retire too? Let me tell you, before I retire, I will transfer all of you to the Traffic Police Brigade. You will all be at the crossroads to direct traffic. The director of the Shanghai Public Security Bureau said furiously. When the other policemen found Chao Etienne and the others fainted on the ground, it was too late. Almost all the policemen in the detention center were knocked out. I have to thank the guy who broke the prison. He only took the magician away. Otherwise, if all the more than 20 criminal suspects in our detention center were released, then I will jump off the building with you. Boss, calm down. Calm down, I promise to catch that guy for you. The others didn't dare to breathe, only Chao Etienne said to the director with a forced smile. Don't talk, it's you, Chao Etienne. Things happened in your hands, and you were the first to be knocked out. I think you have to take the main responsibility for this matter. Hearing Chao Etienne's words, the director's emotions immediately found a target to vent, and he threw all his anger at Chao Etienne. No, director, I was concentrating on the case at that time. How could I know that someone would be so bold? Chao Etienne's face changed, and he quickly defended himself. Humph. The director snorted. Well, then you are useless. The most important thing now is to find that bold guy for me. Tell me, what are your thoughts and ideas? Reporting, director, I have. Chao Etienne rushed to answer as soon as the director's voice fell. Just now we checked all the surveillance cameras in the station and found that the other party's face was covered by the police cap the whole time, but fortunately, the surveillance camera in the reception room captured a few clear photos. Chao Etienne picked up a few enlarged colored photos from the side of his hand. These colored photos showed Gu Han pretending to be a farmer. Actually, before I fainted, I saw the face of the suspect. Combined with these photos, I can be sure that this guy dressed like a farmer is the suspect of this prison break, Chao Etienne said with certainty. Yes, this is a breakthrough. We finally know what the suspect looks like. The bureau chief nodded. Actually, that's not entirely true. Chao Etienne shook his head and said, the suspect is very cunning. He purposely put on some simple makeup, so he looks different from the last time I saw him. For example, here, these are all disguised. At this point, Chao Etienne pulled out a completely different colored photo. This photo was photoshopped according to my description. It's 90% similar to the image in my memory. In fact, this is the real face of the suspect. Oh, it looks like the suspect is only in his early 20s. He actually committed such a crime at such a young age. What's wrong with young people nowadays? After the bureau chief saw the photo, he couldn't help but shake his head and sigh. The guy in the photo was undoubtedly Gohan. Very good, Chao Etienne. Since you already have such an important clue, and the suspect was lost in your hands, we shouldn't bother two people for the same thing. This matter will fall on your head. The bureau chief sighed and said, I'll give you 5 days. Within 5 days, you must arrest this suspect for me. Can you do it? Sure, Chao Etienne said through gritted teeth. Those who were familiar with her knew that this was Chao Etienne's style of doing things. No matter how difficult the task was, as long as it was carried by her, she would never say no. It was because of this personality that Chao Etienne could become the #1 detective in the Public Security Bureau. She was also promoted to the position of captain of the criminal police in a short period of time. Very good, Xiao Chao. I like this personality of yours. Don't worry. Although you are a clever woman, I won't let you cook without rice. From now on, you have the right to mobilize the public security bureaus of the 16 districts under the Shanghai Public Security Bureau, as well as 315 police stations, nearly 50,000 police officers. I can let you deploy them all. As long as you can catch that audacious guy, everything is negotiable. The police chief was obviously forced into a dead end by that audacious guy. He actually handed such a great power directly to Chao Etienne. Then, he seemed to feel that it wasn't safe, so he added, I'll also tell you the truth. It won't be long before I retire. As long as you can solve this case for me, I'll give you a hand before I leave. But if you can't solve this case, then I'm sorry, you can go back to being a criminal police member. Yes, boss. When he said the word yes, Chao Etienne was about to explode. Why? Why did you frame me like this? He Shui's face was full of anger and despair as she questioned the man in front of her. All the policemen, including Chao Etienne, thought that he Shui was rescued by Gohan. In fact, he Shui was kidnapped by Gohan. At that time, she resisted and struggled, wanting to break free from Gohan's hands and stay in the detention center instead of being taken out by Gohan. The reason for this was because he Shui understood in her heart that once she was really taken away by Gohan, then she really wouldn't be able to wash herself clean even if she jumped into the Yellow River. The mark of a criminal suspect on her body would definitely be firmly imprinted. I didn't frame you. It was Wang Qiqi who framed you. She was the one who made the decision to say that you were my accomplice. I didn't do such a thing from the beginning to the end. Gohan explained calmly. Wang Qiqi is the daughter of the richest man in Shanghai. The victim who was kidnapped? Why did she frame me? She and I are people from two different worlds. There was no enmity between us in the past. Why did she frame me? He Shui was even more confused. She wanted to use you to make a deal with me so that I wouldn't have sex with you after I leave here. Gohan's answer could be said to be extremely honest, but he Shui didn't believe a single word, or rather, she didn't understand a single word. Forget it, you don't have to figure out what's going on. You just need to be in a relationship with me. Gohan saw the doubts in he Shui's heart and took the initiative to say this. What? Be in a relationship? Are you crazy? He Shui felt that she might have met a psychopath. That's right, it's a relationship. You have to fall in love with me with all your heart, then say the words on this piece of paper and retrieve your true memories. Then, this matter will be over. Gohan's answer was still very honest. Crazy. You must be crazy. I can't fall in love with a guy like you. Looking at the note in her hand, he Shui said while trembling. I know it's a bit difficult. Try your best to make yourself fall in love with me. Gohan said with a bitter smile. What a joke. Madman. How could I fall in love with a pervert like you? In other words, shouldn't you be the one working hard to make me fall in love with you? He Shui clenched her fist and said angrily. I can't help it. I also know that this matter should be done by myself. Gohan shrugged his shoulders. But you are different from the other sword ladies. I, Gohan, more or less understand the other sword ladies. I know how their personalities are, what they like, and what angle I can use to make them fall in love with me. But you are different, Shui. Your relationship with me is the most subtle. You appearing here and becoming my sword lady was a complete mistake. From the beginning to the end, I never wanted you to become my sword lady. You only became my sword lady because you wanted to get rid of your identity as half human and half Yuan Ko. Think about what you did to me and Qin Pin when you were still Reina Takasaka. It's not an exaggeration to say that you are my biggest enemy. The relationship between us is too special. From the moment you became my sword lady, the communication between us was less than 100 sentences, no, 1,000 words. To be honest, even if I know you like the back of my hand, even if I know how to make you fall in love with me, I can't do it because I have never loved you. I don't even have a trace of good feelings for you. I really can't do it. So try it yourself. Tell yourself to fall in love with me. By the way, in this world, I learned a saying that has been lost for 1,000 years. It's called, where there is a will, there is a way. I believe that as long as you are willing, you can definitely make yourself fall in love with me, Gohan said at the end. In fact, this was completely Gohan's heartfelt words. He really did not know how to conquer the line of Shui. In Gohan's memory, Shui did not have any feelings for him, and it was the same for him. The two of them were only together because they were forced by reality and both of them compromised. Gohan was not the kind of stud horse in novels who would take every woman he saw. Even if some women were stripped clean and sent to Gohan, Gohan would not have any feelings for them. That was why Gohan made such a lame and excessive request. Crazy. Crazy. You are really crazy. Shui's mouth kept muttering, and her face became extremely stiff. After a long time, she slowly relaxed and tried to reveal a smile. She unfolded the note that had been poked into a ball in her hand and read it word by word. Gohan, I like you very much. Can I marry you and be your wife? It's useless. I have said it before. You have to work hard to make yourself fall in love with me. Just reading this line won't have any effect. Hearing Shui's stiff, dry, and expressionless words that were filled with anger and despair, Gohan said with a bitter smile. Who said it won't have any effect? I think the effect is great. You are still as annoying as before. Don't come looking for me if there is nothing important. As soon as Shui's voice fell, she turned into a sword and landed on the ground. Chapter 12-16. Day 4. Gohan stared blankly at the past water sword in his hand, unable to say a word. This time, it was Gohan's turn to repeat Shui's previous state of stupefaction. He was the same as Shui just now, completely unaware of what had happened. He could only try his best to accept the facts in front of him. And the truth was that Shui and Qi were the same as Qin Pin. They had already recovered their true consciousness and memories, and had regained the sword Maiden's ability. The past water sword in Gohan's hand was the best explanation. Although this result was excellent for Gohan, the process was hard for Gohan to understand. Clearly, before Qin Pin and Qi fell in love with him, that incantation-like line had no effect at all, but when it came from Shui's mouth, it hit the mark. After the other party said that line with a tone full of hatred, Shui actually awakened just like that. Why did this happen? Gohan was puzzled no matter how he thought about it. Actually, for Gohan at this time, the best way was to ask Shui what had happened before and after she recovered her memories. But when the words were at the tip of his tongue, Gohan couldn't ask. His relationship with Shui was really too awkward. There are two explanations. After thinking for a period of time, Gohan, who was originally like a lump of paste, faintly had two clearer ideas and explanations appear in his mind. Either Shui didn't have any feelings for me before entering the illusion, so she didn't need to be like Qi and Qin Pin, using strong feelings to stimulate her lost memories. She only needed that line. or Shui hated me to the extreme no matter in reality or illusion. From a certain point of view, extreme hate and extreme love are different approaches to achieve the same result. Being able to use this incantation to stimulate her own memories can also be explained. These were the two conclusions that Gohan came up with after careful consideration. In his heart, Gohan hoped that the first conclusion was true, but Gohan had a vague feeling that the second conclusion might be the truth. Gohan really didn't know if it was a good or bad thing for him to have a sword lady who always held a grudge against him by his side. Would it cause a huge storm in the future? But no matter what, Shui had already recovered, and 3 of the 8 missing sword maidens had already awakened. As long as the remaining 5 were awakened, there would be hope of leaving the illusion. Heavenly reliance? Gohan looked at the phone in his hand and the serious smile on the beautiful police officer's face. The corner of Gohan's mouth curled up into a smile. Etienne, have a good taste of the fine wine and feast I've prepared for you. Captain, we've found something. An eyewitness reported seeing a guy who looked very similar to the suspect near the train station. He even bought a pack of cigarettes in a shop. In fact, the informant was the shop owner. After a sleepless night, Chao Etienne finally received an exciting news. After the meeting yesterday, Chao Etienne stood his ground and decided to use the method of alerting the criminal suspect to make a move. Therefore, Chao Etienne asked the suspect's photo to be posted on Weibo and WeChat Moment. Through the police network, he asked all the internet celebrities to forward the photo on a large scale. As a result, in less than a night, almost 1/5 of the people in Shanghai learned about such a major wanted criminal on the internet, and Gohan's face was also trending all over Shanghai. Hot searches related to Gohan dominated Weibo's hot search list for a whole day. In a sense, Gohan had also become a super internet celebrity. At the same time, Chao Etienne asked all the criminal police to block all the entrances and exits of Shanghai, whether it was the airport, the highway, the train station, or the intersection of the national and provincial highways. Chao Etienne arranged sufficient police forces at all the places that could leave Shanghai. He also used black technology to distinguish faces to ensure that once the suspect showed up, they would be able to recognize him on the spot. Every veteran criminal police officer knew in their hearts that there were generally only 2 results of alerting the suspect. Either the suspect really came out and was forced to expose himself, or the suspect would completely hide in the crowd, not even daring to go out. In this way, it was almost impossible for the police to find him. Therefore, when Chao Etienne made this decision, many people expressed their opposition, but in the end, Chao Etienne still carried the huge pressure and made the decision to alert the suspect. As the saying goes, if you don't succeed, you'll die for a good cause. If the suspect really didn't come out, then Chao Etienne would undoubtedly be a big scapegoat. Fortunately, the suspect finally couldn't help but jump out. Just as Chao Etienne expected, when the Weibo post spread throughout the entire Shanghai, the suspect was determined to leave Shanghai. Captain, someone called the police again. They said that the wanted criminal who looks like the person in the photo kept loitering near the ticket office at the train station. His behavior is very suspicious. Captain, an auntie who was taking a stroll called the police and said that she heard someone planning to spend 300 yuan to get a nearby student to buy a train ticket for him. That auntie swore to God that the person was the criminal on the wanted notice. Following the appearance of the first report, more and more calls followed. In just a short span of 30 minutes, there were more than 20 calls to the police, all reporting that there was a criminal suspect who looked exactly the same as the one on the arrest warrant. Captain, it's obvious that the suspect is planning to escape on a train. We can't wait here any longer. Hurry up and organize a team to search for him at the train station. Chao Etienne's subordinates yelled out. The criminal suspect's action of knocking out more than half of the police officers in the detention center had completely angered the entire Shanghai public security system. They couldn't believe that there was such an arrogant criminal suspect in this world. Everyone wanted to immediately bring this bastard who dared to look down on them to justice. Idiot, when can you use your brains? Can't you see such an obvious trap? Chao Etienne helplessly glanced at his subordinates around him and said with a cold face, "The criminal suspect was able to easily sneak into our public security bureau and knock all of you out without us noticing. Obviously, he has very high anti-investigation skills, and his IQ is much higher than that of ordinary people. When our wanted notice is all over Shanghai, how could this guy take the initiative to appear at the train station where our police force is the most concentrated? Besides, even if he really wanted to escape by train, he would definitely disguise himself and make himself look completely different from the person in the photo. He would also try his best to cover all of his tracks. He might buy cigarettes, eat, or even ask a college student to buy a train ticket for him on the street. So I can conclude that it's just a trap. It's a shallow trick to lure the tiger away from the mountain. He deliberately exposed his whereabouts so that we could mobilize all our main forces to the train station. Then, he would use other methods to leave Shanghai." When Chao Etienne finished speaking, the criminal police officers were so ashamed that they could not even lift their head. Yes, Chao Etienne was right. How could a criminal suspect who had turned the entire Shanghai upside down make such a stupid mistake? This must be a trick to lure the tiger away from the mountain. There was no mistake about it. "Captain Chao, we understand. We will continue to guard all the intersections. We won't be disturbed by the other party's trick," the criminal police said one after another. "No." Unexpectedly, Chao Etienne waved his hand and showed a faint smile. "Since he has spent so much effort to set up such a trap for us, we can't let his efforts go to waste. Xiao Su, Xiao Chen, Xiao Jin, the three of you will transfer 1,000 police officers from the 32 police stations around the train station and set up an inescapable net for me at the train station. Everyone has to be questioned carefully. Whether it's your aura or your actions, the bigger the better. Do you understand?" "Captain, what do you mean by this? Didn't you say that it was just a trick set up by the criminal suspect to lure the tiger away from the mountain? Why do we have to go to the train station with such great fanfare?" After hearing Chao Etienne's order, the other criminal police officers asked in confusion. "That's why I said you guys are stupid. Do you still need me to explain it to you?" Chao Etienne rubbed his forehead helplessly. If the criminal didn't see us searching the train station with great fanfare, and I saw that we fell into his trap, how could he jump out from somewhere else and escape? I haven't finished my order. Whether it's the airport, the port, or the highway, half of the police officers in those places are to pretend to go to the train station. In fact, change out of your police uniform and hide in a hidden place nearby. If my guess is right, the criminal will make his move soon. Yes. Understood. After hearing Chao Etienne's explanation, all the criminal police officers came to a sudden realization and began to act according to Chao Etienne's order. Soon, the entire police force in Shanghai began to be mobilized frantically. The citizens around the train station suddenly found that teams of police officers in police uniforms were gathering around the train station from all directions and began to carry out strict inspections and searches. This made the citizens speculate that they had received an alert of a terrorist attack. I want to see just who exactly this phishing trick of Jiang Taigong will be able to hook up. Seeing the icons on the computer in the command room that marked the deployment of each police force, Chao Etienne clenched his fist and said. Chapter 12:17. Captain, this is the latest alarm record we received from the key surveillance area. When thousands of police officers from the Public Security Bureau were deployed to the train station, Chao Etienne, who was in the command room, did not stay idle. She turned a large area near Shanghai into a key surveillance area, and then requested that all anomalies and alarms in the key surveillance area be reported to her, and she and her subordinates would sort through and identify these alarms. Chao Etienne had a feeling that the clues were hidden in these alarms. "Captain, look, I think this alarm is a bit strange," a criminal police officer, who was combing through the alarm records, suddenly said. "What strange alarm?" Chao Etienne asked impatiently. A driver who was parked near the Shanghai-Nanjing highway called the police and said that his license plate was lost, and someone left a note on the window, asking him to transfer 200 yuan to a WeChat account to return his license plate, Chao Etienne's subordinate reported. "It's just a police report for stealing a license plate. What's so strange about that?" Chao Etienne said with a frown. "It's like this: in the past, when a license plate was stolen, it was usually in the morning, and all the license plates were stolen at night. There were very few cases of license plates being stolen during the day. But this one reported that his license plate was stolen during the day, and he was driving his car 2 hours ago," the criminal police officer said. "You're saying that this license plate was stolen by the suspect? He stole the license plate to change the license plate of his car?" The muscles on Chao Etienne's face twitched. "Yes, Captain, I'm guessing that the suspect must have wanted to leave Shanghai via the highway, but he was afraid that the license plate would expose his true identity, so he stole a license plate to disguise his car. In order to make it look like the license plate was stolen by a thief, he purposely wrote a blackmail note, so that we would think that this was an ordinary case of theft and blackmail," the criminal police officer analyzed. "But what's the point of stealing a license plate?" Chao Etienne frowned and thought for a long time, then suddenly said excitedly, "Find out the information about this stolen car immediately. Quick." "Yes, Captain. I found it. This is a large white Honda SUV with a Nanjing license plate, and it's currently 3.5 years old. The insurance is very complete, and the violation records and maintenance records are also very complete. It's a vehicle with no abnormalities." The criminal police officer quickly found the SUV's information. A large SUV with a Nanjing license plate. Chao Etienne seemed to have grasped something. He clenched his fists and said, "This information is very important. There are probably less than 1,000 large SUVs with Nanjing license plates in the entire Shanghai. It's like looking for a needle in a haystack. The license plate of this car was not stolen at random. The suspect deliberately chose a vehicle with a foreign license plate. But what does a car with a foreign license plate represent? Don't tell me that when a car with a license plate leaves the highway, we don't check the people inside the car?" The police officer was puzzled. "No, there must be a very special reason for this. The suspect wouldn't have chosen this car without a reason." Chao Etienne's eyes didn't move at all. His eyelids didn't even blink. It was obvious that he was deep in thought. But no matter how Chao Etienne thought about it, he couldn't think of any use for a foreign car's license plate to a criminal. What didn't I think of? What abnormality did I miss? The more Chao Etienne thought about it, the more pain she felt. Finally, she grabbed a strand of her hair and pulled it out to vent the confusion in her heart. But thanks to this hair, when this hair was pulled out, a strong pain stimulated Chao Etienne's brain, making her think of something. She immediately rushed to the podium and ordered the police officers around her, "Connect me to the traffic police department. Connect me to all the traffic accidents that happened in Shanghai today, especially the accidents related to the white Honda SUV." "Yes, Captain." The criminal police officers acted quickly and soon got the information Chao Etienne needed through the traffic police department's database. "Captain, there were a total of 3 traffic accidents today with the white Honda SUV. One of them hit a Porsche when it was parked. The 2 owners are still quarreling in the traffic police department. Another hit an 80-year-old man. The old man is still in the hospital. The owner has been controlled by the traffic police department. The last car collided with a large transport vehicle, but fortunately, only the front of the white SUV was smashed. The driver inside is fine. Which one is it? Which one is the problem here?" Chao Etienne thought about these 3 traffic accidents, her expression constantly changing. Suddenly, she seemed to think of something and immediately asked, "What about these 3 cars? Where are they now?" "The first car is now parked in the traffic police department, the second car is parked in the hospital, and the third car has been towed by a tow truck for repair," the criminal police officer said. In other words, the first and second cars have stopped in their positions and are not moving. Only the third car is moving? Chao Etienne's expression brightened. She felt that she had vaguely grasped the whole situation and seemed to have guessed the tricks that the cunning criminal suspect was trying to use. "Tell me the information about the third car now. Quick," Chao Etienne said anxiously. "Captain, this is a large white Honda SUV with a local license plate. It's 4 years old, but the owner of this car is a sailor who specializes in shipping. Usually, this car only has a record of violations on holidays. The rest of the time, it should be parked at home," the criminal police officer immediately replied. "Is it the same model as the white SUV that lost its license plate?" "Yes, it's the same model." "Then, can you check for me now and see if the insurance company of this car sent a tow truck to take it away?" "Isn't that a waste of time?" The traffic police who dealt with the accident already saw the tow truck coming. Of course, it was the tow truck sent by the insurance company. The criminal police officer muttered, thinking that Chao Etienne's question was unnecessary. However, he still dialed the number of the insurance company. After asking for a few minutes, his expression suddenly changed. Before he hung up the phone, he said to Chao Etienne, "Boss, the insurance company of this car said that they didn't receive a report of the accident at all, and they didn't send any tow trucks to take the car away." That's right, everything makes sense now." Chao Etienne punched the criminal police officer in front of him on the shoulder, and the pain made the criminal police officer cry. "Go back and ask the insurance company of the car whose license plate was stolen. Ask them if they sent a tow truck to take the car away." "Yes, sir." The criminal police officer endured the pain in his shoulder and dialed the number again. A few minutes later, he jumped up in surprise and reported to Chao Etienne, "Captain, you're really smart. The insurance company said that they did receive a report of the stolen license plate. They said that the car had an accident in Shanghai, and they asked for a tow truck to take it back to Nanjing for repair. They also said that the owner was very strange. He said that he didn't have time to come to Shanghai again, and he would rather pay 3,000 yuan to the insurance company to take the car back to Nanjing for repair. So, they sent a local tow truck to take the car away. The insurance company said that the tow truck left 20 minutes ago, and the car should still be in the city now, but it will soon arrive at the entrance of the Shanghai-Nanjing Expressway." That's right. What a cunning guy. He actually came up with such a plan. We were almost fooled by him. Chao Etienne roared. She finally figured out the suspect's entire plan. The suspect had stolen a car twice in total. The first time, he stole the license plate of an SUV from Nanjing, and the other time, he stole a white SUV. In order not to alarm the owner of the car and cause the owner to report the theft, the suspect deliberately chose a white SUV that hadn't been used for a long time. This way, even if the car was stolen for more than 10 days, the owner wouldn't find out that his car was missing. At the same time, the suspect stole the license plate of an SUV of the same model with a Nanjing license plate. Because only one license plate was stolen, the owner of the Nanjing SUV was likely to ignore this point and not choose to report the case immediately. And even if the case was reported, it would only be treated as an ordinary case of extortion of a license plate, and it wouldn't alarm Chao Etienne. Since the suspect had the ability to race in Shanghai, he must be a guy who was very familiar with cars. He must have something like a master key in his hand. Cars from Guangzhou Automobile Honda were notoriously unguarded. Almost all electronic locks from Guangzhou Automobile Honda could be easily opened by the master key. Moreover, car owners often had the habit of leaving documents such as insurance companies and insurance policies in the car storage compartment, so the criminal could easily find out the insurance information of the car through the insurance company's insurance policies. Then came the most exciting moment of the plan. The suspect first drove the stolen white SUV and deliberately caused a small car accident. Then, he called the car's insurance company in Nanjing and asked them to send a car to take the car back to Nanjing for repair. Then, before the traffic police finished dealing with the accident scene and the tow truck came, the other party replaced the license plate of the accident car with the license plate of the Nanjing SUV. This was the same brand and the same model of SUV, so when the tow truck driver arrived at the scene and saw that the car's model and license plate matched, he would not have any doubts and directly towed the car back to Nanjing. But at this moment, it was estimated that the criminal suspect had already secretly hidden in the SUV that had the accident. It could be said that no one was aware of it, because it was a registered tow truck sent by a formal insurance company. When the tow truck passed through the exit of the Shanghai-Nanjing Expressway, the police in charge of inspection would not have any doubts and would directly let the tow truck out. At most, they would check the driver of the tow truck. They would not have any doubts about the white SUV that had an accident behind the tow truck. The suspect could then pass through the expressway to Nanjing without any abnormalities. Good plan. What a good plan. Even though he had figured out the other party's plan, Chao Etienne still couldn't help but admire it. The other party's plan could be described as wonderful and flawless. First, through the illusion of the railway station, the police's attention was attracted to the railway station, and then they escaped from the expressway without being noticed. It could be said to be flawless, but then again there were still times when there were mistakes. The mistake was that the suspect misjudged the time when the Nanjing car owner would report the case. She never thought that the other party would report the case as soon as the license plate was lost. At the same time, she did not expect that Chao Etienne was not confused by the illusion she had arranged. On the contrary, because of this lame illusion, all the monitoring became more strict and detailed. Any slightest abnormality would not be missed. Therefore, such a small case of losing the license plate was reported to Chao Etienne in the first place, so that Chao Etienne could follow the clues and see through the whole arrangement of the other party. What a pity! Such a smart person met me who is smarter than you. This time you deserve it. I will never let you escape. Chao Etienne clenched his fists tightly. Inform the people guarding the Shanghai-Nanjing Expressway to keep an eye on every tow truck for me. Even if the other party is not suspicious, detain them in place for me until we arrive. As soon as Chao Etienne's order fell, she picked up her police pistol, left the command center with a large group of armed criminal police, and ran toward the Shanghai-Nanjing Expressway intersection. Chapter 12-18. On the way to the Shanghai-Nanjing Expressway, Chao Etienne took the opportunity to explain the criminal suspect's plan in detail to all the criminal police officers who still didn't understand what had happened. The way these criminal police officers looked at Chao Etienne suddenly changed. It was full of admiration and respect. In the face of such a meticulous and exquisite plan, if they were in Chao Etienne's position, they wouldn't be able to guess the criminal suspect's strategy even if they were beaten to death. Only the great and wise Captain Chao, Boss Chao, could see through all of this. As a result, Chao Etienne's image in everyone's heart became even more full and lofty. This made Chao Etienne a little happy in her heart. After this case was solved, with the promise of the boss and the admiration of her subordinates, her promotion would be a sure thing. In the future, the position of the director of Shanghai Public Security Bureau would definitely be hers. Chao Etienne's luck was pretty good. When she drove to the Shanghai-Nanjing Expressway, she just got off the car and before she had a drink of water, she saw a tow truck driving towards the expressway. Behind the tow truck was a large white SUV. "It's this car. Stop it!" Chao Etienne shouted excitedly, and the surrounding police cars immediately rushed forward with their sirens blaring, surrounding the trailer. Police comrade? What's wrong? I'm a good person. I didn't drink. What are you doing? Seeing so many police cars surrounding them, the tow truck driver was so scared that his legs went soft. He climbed out of the car while trembling. Let me ask you, where are you driving this tow truck to? Chao Etienne ran up quickly and asked. It's Nanjing. I want to send this accident car to Nanjing. The tow truck driver said intermittently. Is it the car with the license plate number, Su XX? Chao Etienne asked again. Yes, it's this car. The tow truck driver said. Very good, then it's right. Do it. Chao Etienne ordered. The surrounding police officers took out their pistols at the same time and all aimed at the white SUV behind the tow truck. Looking at the dozens of black muzzles around him, the tow truck driver, who had never seen a real gun in his life, had never seen such a scene. He was so scared that his legs went soft and he fell to the ground. Humph! Come out. Even though I don't know your name, and even though you're cunning enough, you still can't escape from the net of justice. You can't escape from my, Chao Etienne's, eyes. You shouldn't have shown off in front of me. Chao Etienne walked to the side of the white SUV and said loudly, You better come out now. Otherwise, when I pull you out, you won't even have the chance to turn yourself in. Come out. Come out. The surrounding criminal police officers followed closely behind Chao Etienne's roar. Their voices were so loud that it shook the sky. It was like a bolt from the blue, scaring 2 to 3 cars that were passing by and almost causing them to drift in the direction of the highway entrance. Go! After waiting for a minute, there was no response from the white SUV. Chao Etienne had completely lost his patience. With an order, all the police officers around him rushed forward. Captain, there's no one in the driver's seat or the back seat. Captain, there's no one in the trunk. Captain, there is no one hiding in the bottom of the car. Captain, we've searched the entire tow truck, there's no one. However, a scene that made Chao Etienne vomit blood happened. Her subordinates all reported to Chao Etienne that there was no trace of the suspect. Chao Etienne, who did not believe it, went up to search herself. Of course, the result was the same. Chao Etienne also found nothing. Damn it! Am I thinking too much? This is just a simple matter. Don't tell me there's no scheme involved? Chao Etienne could not help but start to doubt her own judgment. At the same time, the other criminal police officers looked at Chao Etienne differently. Chao Etienne could faintly feel a trace of contempt and mockery. This made Chao Etienne even angrier and crazier. She could not stand this kind of mocking atmosphere, and she could not stand this kind of mockery coming from her subordinates. Chao Etienne really wanted to get angry at these subordinates, but Chao Etienne could not find any reason. All the judgment was made by herself. Who could Chao Etienne put the blame on? With so many emotions stuffed into Chao Etienne's head, she felt like she was about to explode. In the end, she grabbed the driver on the ground. After taking a few long deep breaths, she tried to show an extremely ugly smile and asked the driver, "Let me ask you, who was the person who asked you to tow this car away? Is it the person in the photo?" Chao Etienne put the photo of Gohan in front of the driver and asked, "It's not him. It's not him. It's a woman." The driver immediately replied, "Woman? Is it this woman?" Chao Etienne quickly took out He Shishui's photo. "It's her. It's her." The driver shouted and pointed at the woman in the photo. "Then what did she say? What did she do? Do you know where she is now?" Chao Etienne grabbed the driver's collar and shook him back and forth. The surrounding criminal police officers were so scared that they rushed forward to stop Chao Etienne's somewhat excessive behavior. It should be known that this driver was not a criminal suspect. He was just an innocent driver. If the other party complained about Chao Etienne's excessive behavior, Chao Etienne would not be able to bear the consequences. "No. I don't know," the driver said in horror. Oh yes, she gave me a note, but she didn't say who this note was for. She only said that it was for a crazy woman. Crazy woman? When Etion heard this, her eyes instantly widened like a copper bell. Oh my God, am I not like a crazy woman now? Give me this note. Etion snatched the note and opened it. There was a sentence written on it. Dear Miss Etion, I know you really want to catch me, so let me give you a friendly reminder. I am still in Shanghai. But you don't have much time left. I'll leave Shanghai after 16 p.m. If you can't find me before then, you'll never have the chance. By the way, your head is quite hard. My hand still hurts when I hit it. Damn it. Damn it. Chao Etienne's whole body was trembling. This note was undoubtedly a huge provocation to her. In fact, she, Chao Etienne, had been ruthlessly attacked by the other party. This made the provocation on the note like a sharp knife, deeply stabbing into Etienne's heart. Captain, don't be so agitated. Captain, we still have a chance. It's only 15 p.m. right now, we still have an hour. We can definitely catch that D***Ned beast. Seeing Chao Etienne's expression, the police officers around her immediately tried to persuade her. That's right, I haven't lost yet. I still have an hour. Chao Etienne was indeed the captain of the criminal police. Although she had completely lost control of her emotions just now, she quickly began to adjust herself and gradually began to calm down. Let me think about it. Let me think about it. Chao Etienne silently returned to the command car and immersed herself in all kinds of information again. She began to think frantically again. This time, Chao Etienne was completely fooled. Whether it was the SUV or the license plate, they seemed to be deliberately made by the other party to play with her. When all of this was exposed, it became worthless and could be directly thrown aside. However, Chao Etienne had a feeling that the truth was hidden in this information that had become garbage. There must be something that she had overlooked. Since the other party dared to send such a provocative letter to her, it meant that the other party had turned this case into a battlefield. That meant that the other party had already turned this case into a battlefield that wanted to completely toy with and defeat him. To a certain extent, the other party was a criminal lunatic, but also a genius. And for a guy who had both the attributes of a madman and a genius, the other party would never set up a one-sided situation. Even if such a person knew that it was a dangerous thing, he would deliberately leave some hints and clues for her. Because only in this way, the other party would have a greater sense of pleasure after defeating her. Only then could she rush to the next battlefield and have a new confrontation with him. Therefore, Chao Etienne could be sure that the other party must have left some clues for him. Therefore, in the next 20 minutes, Chao Etienne went through all kinds of information he had collected over and over again, especially the information on the white SUV case, but there was still no result. Until Chao Etienne, who felt extremely tired, accidentally raised his head to look out the window and saw a mid-axle car full of more than a dozen cars flashing past him. When it began to be questioned and inspected by the police, Chao Etienne suddenly felt as if his head was struck by lightning. A new idea suddenly appeared in Chao Etienne's mind. A mid-axle car. A mid-axle car. Chao Etienne rummaged around and finally found the information he wanted. It was the detailed information of a traffic accident report. The details of the vehicles on both sides of the traffic accident were clearly written on it. One of them was a white Guangzhou Auto Honda SUV, and the other was a mid-axle car, exactly the same as the car that had just passed by. This is a car from the China Shipping Group? Chao Etienne quickly found the ownership of this mid-axle car in the information and found that this mid-axle car belonged to the China Shipping Group. In other words, this was a mid-axle car that was about to board an ocean-going cargo ship. Hello. Is this the Shanghai branch of the China Shipping Group? This is the Shanghai Public Security Bureau. I need you to immediately cooperate with my investigation. Chao Etienne directly dialed the China Shipping Group's number. After 3 minutes of communication, Chao Etienne finally got the information she wanted. I finally found you this time, Chao Etienne said through gritted teeth. Those teeth that could not bear the burden could not help but make a creaking sound, as if they were about to break. From the phone call she had just received, the China Shipping Group did indeed have a mid-axle car full of cars to transport a batch of cars from the Shanghai port to the Ningbo port today, and the ship carrying this mid-axle car was scheduled to set sail at 16 o'clock in the afternoon. Although Chao Etienne strongly requested the China Shipping Group to immediately stop the sailing plan of this ship, with her status, how could she order a state-owned enterprise like the China Shipping Group? They very clearly stated that unless there was a document from the municipal committee, the ship would not be delayed and would definitely set sail on time. And with only 40 minutes left, how could Chao Etienne get the document from the municipal committee? Helpless, Chao Etienne could only once again pressure her subordinate. A large number of police cars roared past, speeding towards the Shanghai port. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Nights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.